Happy Friday! It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, September 20th. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. By the way, Mark Crowley spent the entire day updating the lighting system here in the studio. It just looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks wonderful. His back hurts, though. That's
I don't blame him.
It's awful. It's up and down ladders, and he has to reach above. And yeah, so the studio looks fantastic.
We're going to give Channel 9 a run for their money here.
Yeah, you and I are going to have to start wearing sport coats. That's going to be awkward.
Different weird color sport coats.
Yeah, exactly. How come everyone's doing that weird plaid thing? I mean, I get it sometimes, but there are times in a little
70s are back, baby.
I know, but there are times it's really funny that how people are leaning into some of the designs. They're like, oh, yeah, I understand the subtleness of some of the colors, but sometimes like, wow, there was a guy that was doing the NFL commentary over the weekend, and they both had the same little checker design on the jackets. One of them was kind of a dark gray with some subtle blues in it. That was really nice. Other dude had something that was a shade of cream that I hadn't seen in a while with brown. I'm like, oh.
Cream and brown.
Yeah, I was like, that's a really weird fashion choice.
Do they all get their own little stylists that help them out?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that they all get that. Yeah, they all stylists. In fact, well, this is a side note. There's one person that appears on Fox News every once in a while. It's kind of a part-time commentator, and I think her stylist hates her. Because just how she dresses her. She dresses her like she's some sort of like escaped Disney princess from prison. It's just awful. It's as if the stylist every day is like
Disney prison princess from prison.
Yes, it's like every day they're like, how can I make her look awful on TV? It's like, how puffy can I make the sleeves? How bad can I make this? Yeah, I think she's pissed off the stylist in some way or another, and so she's mad at him. But yeah, I don't know. We never will get our own stylists. I have no stylist.
Well, just ask John Corbliss. He can help us out. Add to his job.
There we go.
John,
there we go.
Start dressing us. We have got a whole lot to talk about on the Jeff and Bill Show today. Holy cow. Kamala Harris did Oprah Winfrey yesterday.
Yeah.
And you remember when I talked about the Oprah-fying of Kamala?
Yep.
Holy cow, did they pour it on last night?
Oh, did they ever? Yeah.
Julia Roberts, Meryl Streep, Ben Stiller, they brought out everybody.
Yeah, there was just a laundry list of people. That was kind of crazy to watch. Like, okay, I didn't spend a ton of time on it, but yeah, I spent some time with it. And it was a laundry list of celebrities.
Because, Bill, that was meant to appeal to one audience that neither of you or I are a part of.
That's true. That is true.
Because we have, is it a Y chromosome? Is that how it works there? Yeah, that was purely an appeal to the suburban housewife.
Yeah, it was.
You got to hang out with your gal pals last night, including Julia Roberts.
Yep. But it did, the presentation of it, though, was fun. That was the thing that it kept getting me, is that the theme, the energy around it was just fun. It wasn't meant to be a heavy lift. It wasn't going to be a deep policy discussion. It was what you talked about, the Oprahfication of Kamala. And it was, you were just supposed to be comfortable with her and have fun watching it. And for that, it accomplished that. I didn't think it was supposed to do anything more than to just make you feel happy and comfortable with voting for her. That's it.
So I saw it as this desperate attempt to make her to become Barack Obama. Please become Barack Obama. In fact, there was even a few quotes at some point that was, I haven't felt this good since 2008. They desperately want her. And the problem they're going to run into is the product isn't there. Marketing can only take you so far.
Now, what do you mean by that? I'm curious.
Product, she is not Barack Obama in her ability to communicate, in her ability to think quickly on her feet, to put together policy ideas, any of that stuff. And in fact, Axios goes after her, which we're going to get to in just a second, about how this will be the lowest media engagement via press. The Harris-Walz campaign will be like the lowest engaged interviews, sit-downs, discussions with media of any presidential campaign in modern history.
That's interesting because in the conversation, it will depend upon what's the definition of media.
And in here, they do try to draw out and not include in their numbers and their counts purely partisan media.
Yeah.
So they're talking newspapers, they're talking television stations,
yeah,
those types of things. So they tried to pull that out, but even then, she's just not sitting down to have discussions. So I think that reflects a failure in the product, that she is not as talented as Barack Obama, and they desperately want her to be.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Do you think that Barack Obama is necessarily talented on policy? Was that something going into the election? You were like, wow, he's really talented on policy.
That's a good point. And I have to try to go back and remember Barack Obama 2008.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he was that talented then. I think people were kind of caught up in this moment of we're going to rectify all these historical wrongs by electing this guy.
Yeah.
And he turned out to not be that great of a president.
Well, for me, it was the idea that he was a wonderful orator when he was on the stage and when he was giving the speech. She is, to a lesser degree, she's a good orator, not great, not on the level that Obama is. And Obama is better on his feet as far as the interviews. But as far as the policy, I would push back on that a little bit, because I don't think that anybody who is that wasn't persuaded by Obama, et cetera, would go, well, I didn't like him, but man, was he good on policy. that was where he's really strong. I think I'm not sure about that critique being necessarily fair, and I'm not certain that she has to be good on policy. And this is what we talk about a lot, because it's a binary choice because of who she's facing.
Yeah,
the guy she's facing on policy is atrocious. He can't stay on message. So I don't think she has to, because he can't. The contrast isn't there. If you were running against a Romney, running against a Santorum, people that you've worked with, I think there's a huge contrast in the ability to push policy. Because of who she's running against, I think she doesn't have to. And I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying Kamala is doing a great job because she's not doing policy. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying that in the political landscape at this point in time, because of who she's running against, I don't think she has to be a policy wonk. In fact, I think if she was, it would be a detriment to what she's doing. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that because, oh my gosh, what does it say about the American voting population if Kamala Harris gets elected, because she essentially is Oprah-fied. She becomes your gal pal, and then you Obama-fy her. And she becomes this kind of a historic opportunity to rectify our past wrongs. So you combine that all together. Do you get somebody that's talented as a leader of the free world? I don't think so, but we'd love to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971. That's 303-696-1971. You can text the show on the Dan Caplis text line, Dan Caplis Law text line. 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good to talk to you. She's not likable. That's what I know.
That's a great point.
You know, even with Suburban Housewives, I'm guessing, but what do I know?
But I mean, that they poured it on so thick. Here's J-Lo. Here's Chris Rock.
Yeah, all the dummies.
I mean,
hey, dummies,
exactly.
Come on out here.
And then after all the stuff that's coming out about P. Diddy, you're like,
right?
Bro.
Why would I trust anyone from the West Coast Hollywood?
I mean, we all knew that the entertainment industry was not Christian, right? That's very clear. You're not into following the teachings of the Bible, but this depraved,
right?
And then they trot them all out to support Kamala Harris. I don't think it's as effective.
They're not even trustworthy agnostic in Hollywood. Right. I mean, it's just. Yeah, who is going to follow or listen to anyone in Hollywood? I mean, we should know that by now. 54 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 86 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Let's just get through the next 64 days. How about that?
All right, that wasn't last night, but I had to play it anyway. Kamala Khan with Oprah in a really big show last night. The word salad was fresh or stale, however you want to look at it. But once again, it was lacking protein.
We take pride in the privilege of being American. And this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being.
I was waiting for the burden to come up. A bipartisan House task force will be looking at the 2 Trump assassination attempts. The task force will start by focusing on Secret Service's reliance on state and local law enforcement at the former president's July rally in Pennsylvania, where he was grazed by a bullet to his ear. The first hearing is scheduled for next Thursday. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to lead their own investigation into what happened last week.
The answer is no, they're not being cooperative. Yes, I am concerned. I mean, for example, we were rebuffed. Our investigators were rebuffed just going to the fence line outside of Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. And so I think they've taken the position, they don't want the state of Florida to be involved in this. But here's the thing. There were multiple violations of Florida law across multiple jurisdictions. We think at least 3 judicial circuits. This guy, Ryan Routh, committed potential violations of Florida law. So we have a duty to investigate this. We have a duty to bring the appropriate charges. And we also have a duty to inform the public about how this happened. So I don't anticipate there being cooperative. I think that they've just taken that position.
They is the FBI, by the way. Former President Trump is telling the Israeli-American Council that Israel has to defeat Kamala Harris. Trump spoke Thursday at the council's national summit in Washington, D.C. The theme for the summit is fighting anti-Semitism in America. Batteries are included. The Biden administration says more than 24 battery technology projects in 14 states will share $3 billion in federal funding. The funds come from the 2021 bipartisan infrastructure law. Jury deliberations are expected to begin today in the trial of Ahmad Alissa. He's the man, of course, charged in the deadly mass shooting at the Boulder King Supers in 2021. Alissa faces numerous charges accusing him of shooting and killing 10 people at the store on Table Mesa Drive. He has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Jurors are scheduled to start deliberating after closing arguments. 2 people are dead and 1 is hurt following a Greeley crash involving a motorcycle fleeing from police. Authorities say an officer with the Garden City Police Department tried to pull over a motorcycle in the 2700 block of 8th Avenue late Wednesday. The motorcycle sped off before colliding with a vehicle at the intersection of 11th and Highway 34. The man riding the motorcycle and a woman in the vehicle died, while the second driver was hospitalized. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. 52 in Littleton, 51 in Broomfield, 54 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue TGIF. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a warm and very nice late summer day. High temperatures about 7 to 10 degrees above average, near 90, mid-50s tonight. Cooler fall-like weather starts to move in for the last official day of summer this Saturday. 60s to 70s, showers and thunderstorms late, light to moderate rain likely. Highs 50s to 60s with rain Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KUS Weather Center.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
What if
All right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Yesterday, Kamala Harris does an Oprah Winfrey event. Iggy texts in, were there gifts under the seats? You get a phone. You remember the Obama phones? You get a phone.
Yeah.
You get a phone. You get a phone.
Oh, yeah.
Kamala Harris, you get a migrant. You get a migrant. You get a migrant.
That is funny.
Brought 10 million migrants for you Americans.
Well, I don't know if she brought them personally, but that's a lot of work. If you're saying she didn't do any work on the border, she brought 10 million migrants in. That's a lot of work. At least give her credit for hard work. Then you can disagree with the job she did, but at least give her credit for the hard work. Then I'm teasing you.
I raised this interesting issue about Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, and their media strategy because Axios did an article about it. The conservative bastion of thought, Axios, does this article yesterday. The Harris-Walz ticket is on pace to do fewer interviews and press conferences than any major party's presidential pairing in modern U.S. history. Vice President Harris's team is betting she and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, can avoid many tough interviews and still win as they run down the clock to Election Day. That strategy comes even as many voters say they want to learn more about Harris. And as her campaign has said, she changed many of her past liberal positions to more centrist policies. The previous press-friendly Walz has joined Harris in largely dodging the media while campaigning before friendly, enthusiastic crowds. Harris has been a candidate for 59 days and Walz for 44 days because of President Biden's sudden withdrawal as the Democrat nominee in July 21. During those 59 days, Republican Donald Trump and J.D. Vance have participated in more than 70 interviews and press conferences with TV and print reporters, while Harris and Walz have taken part in 7, according to Axios analysis. Vance has participated in more than 7 times more interviews and press conferences than Harris and Walz combined during that time. So what does this mean for the direction of this country, that we're electing people that want to be the leader of the free world, but feel like they can get elected without actually engaging the press? Is this just smart tactically? Joe Biden essentially did something very similar. Remember, campaigning from his basement, and he was able to defeat Donald Trump. So does it matter? Do the ends justify the means, I guess is what I'm asking. Can she get through all this without doing many press interviews so long as she's elected? That's what matters at the end of the day. Or is this indicative of a country that's collapsing because its elected officials don't need to answer to the American people, don't need to talk with the media, don't need to be able to defend their positions because, well, you don't really need to know those. You just need to like her, and at least she's not Donald Trump. What do you think? Give me a call, 303-696-1971, or text the show on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone line. Steve, Denver, good morning. You're on Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Morning.
Howdy ho. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. What's on your mind?
So the right complains about Vice President Harris's policies because they don't like the policies she has. And here's 5 of them. One is obviously the abortion issue. Number 2 is she's talked about protecting the Affordable Care Act, and Trump talks about concepts. 3 is she supports the PRO Act, which is to enhance labor and collective bargaining rights. She is much stronger on our ally relationship in Europe, much stronger on Ukraine, and she's for reasonable gun control. Now, the people that support her recognize those, and the constant complaints about no policies, they don't even mention them.
Okay. Now I'll grant that those are policy issues. Do you think that Kamala Harris can defend them well and explain them to the American people?
Yes, I think she can do everything Trump can do and more. I mean, he dissembled himself at the meeting yesterday. I mean, he went there and he basically complained about them not supporting him. I think he's a terrible candidate. I don't know if the MAGA world recognizes how bad he is.
So I'm going to go back to your statement about Kamala Harris being able to effectively explain these and defend these. Why won't she do media?
I don't know the answer to that. That's a good point. That is a very good point. I don't know the answer to that, but that is a good point.
Now, Steve, my guess is the reason that Kamala is not doing the media interviews is because she doesn't have to at this point. And what I mean by that is, yes, Trump and Vance have been out there talking to everybody. And let's just take a moment and reflect on the past 14 days, how well that's gone. Not so strong. There isn't a lot of movement that Trump or Vance has created positively in moving the needle for voters based on all their interviews. And part of the reason we're in this issue with Springfield and the Haitians eating the dogs and the cats that's now spilling over into other states like Alabama, rumors about Haitian immigrants eating dogs and cats, is because of an interview done by J.D. Vance. So when you go out and you shoot yourself in the foot in the media interviews, I don't think that's an argument necessarily that the opponent needs to go out and do more media interviews. I understand the idea, and I think that Kamala can defend her policies, but I don't think she's very eloquent, not nearly as eloquent as Barack Obama is. But let's talk about Donald Trump defending his policies. One of the things you brought up, Steve, was his concepts of a plan on healthcare. That is a horrible answer. 9 years, and she asked for 9 years. What is your idea on healthcare? And it's, well, I have concepts of a plan. You've had 9 years to do the homework, and you haven't done the homework, is what he was saying in that public forum. So that would be the reason that I understand Axios, and I hear Axios complaining a little bit because they are a media outlet. They want access. So I feel Axios is complaining about access, which is kind of funny to say. But I think that's where their motivation is on it. And I think the reason that Kamala doesn't have to do as many interviews is because as long as Trump and Vance keep going out there and talking about interviews, it goes badly for them. Every time they go out and they do these public-facing interviews, things go sideways. Just the other night, he was on Gutfeld and talked about an imaginary debate crowd. He talked about the crowd going wild when the ABC moderators were fact-checking him. There was no one else in the room, but he talked about a crowd going wild. When you do things like that in public interviews, your opponent doesn't have to do it because you're doing enough harm for yourself. Sun Tzu, when your opponent is destroying himself, let him. That's what she's doing, in my opinion.
Steve, what do you think?
Well, I agree. I just think he's in a, and the immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, are there lawfully.
Yeah. and were asked to be brought there. Some of them came of their own volition, but there's a program because they couldn't get enough people for certain jobs in the area that a couple of business owners reached out, and there's a program that brings them to town.
20,000 of them.
But again, here's the thing. They have better employment. They have better production. And the other part is have you heard a lot, an overwhelming rise up of those people saying, oh my God, the immigrants are destroying the town? No. The number one thing
there's complaints. There's been complaints at city councils.
Yes, there have. And number one complaint is they can't drive. That is the number one overwhelming complaint. And we can acknowledge that. Outside of that, it's fairly minor. All the other things that people are complaining about within reason.
Wages have gone up. Housing prices have gone up. There's more employment and fuller employment in Springfield than there has been in the past. But apparently they can't drive because they didn't learn the same way where they came from.
Yeah, and probably when they got driver's license, et cetera, the testing was probably very inadequate, is what I would guess. But that seems to be the other overwhelming complaint about it, is they can't drive at all. Okay, well, I get it. I have teenagers. They can't drive either.
I want to get back to this media thing on Kamala Harris here. She's hiding. She's hiding because of who she actually is. She is a radical, progressive, San Francisco, California liberal. And what the machine has to do in order to get her elected is make sure that the American people don't know that. So what you get is this star-studded Oprah Winfrey feel-good effort where we're going to give you a gift and you'll get a gift and everybody's going to be happy, because if we actually talked about her positions and the direction she's going to lead this country, America is going to look like San Francisco. That is why she won't do media interviews.
Well, Trump would not want to stand up for his prior positions. He was for abortion. Then at one time he gave an interview that women should be punished if they get an abortion. And I don't know why MAGA, I know why, but I don't know why MAGA cannot recognize Harris's accomplishments. What
like
she's
what?
Accomplished. My God. Well, let's start at the beginning here, ground level. She graduated from law school. She was elected twice.
You can become the president of the United States because you graduated law school, Steve? Come on.
No, I'm not finished. She was elected twice as district attorney of San Francisco, one of the largest cities in America, elected to be the attorney general.
And one of the worst cities in America right now. Did San Francisco get better because of her leadership, Steve?
Yes, because people are tired of this mega craziness.
What does MAGA craziness have to do with San Francisco?
I want to interject on this one because Donald Trump, during, again, one of his public appearances, said San Francisco 15 years ago was a beautiful city.
It was at some point.
Guess what? Hang on. 15 years ago, Kamala's the DA.
And how is it now?
No.
So how did she set it up? How did she set it up?
Here's the issue.
So she inherited a great city.
No. The issue is Donald Trump is complimenting the city when Harris is in that power position.
Oh, no, he was probably wrong on the dates. He had to go back. But the idea, how did Kamala?
So this is the thing.
How did Kamala Harris improve San Francisco?
See, here's the thing.
Name one thing.
Hang on a second.
One thing.
Wait, that's not the issue I'm bringing up. You're changing the issue. The issue is that Donald. Yes, you are. The issue is that Donald Trump complimented the city when Kamala Harris was in charge. Okay.
Then he was wrong on his dates.
Well, again,
you guys cannot tell me one thing she did. Steve, Bill, what's one thing she did as the lead prosecutor, the district attorney in San Francisco, that made that city better?
I'd have to go back and look right now, but I believe crime rates are low and the prosecution was higher based on criminals. And there were more criminals who were put behind bars during her tenure. But I would have to dive deeper into it. But again,
all right, let's keep talking, Steve, about her accomplishments.
Yeah, keep going.
Well, I am. Whatever she did as district attorney the first time was sufficient to get her elected again. And whatever she did the second time got her elected as the attorney general. And she headed the second largest justice department in the United States. And that was sufficient to get her elected as senator. And of course, what does the right say? Oh my, she got these jobs because she's a black woman. Oh my, she got these jobs because of Willie Brown. But at the same time, Lauren Boebert's beloved on your station because I guess of her policies. compared to her accomplishments.
Yeah, because her policies are better than Kamala Harris's policies. How great is California doing right now? How great are they doing?
Not well.
And you had somebody that just led every aspect of the state. You talked about her leadership of the Attorney General's office, being a U.S. Senator, being a chief prosecutor in San Francisco. There is not one area of her leadership where she has improved the community that she led.
She had very strong conviction rates when she was sitting in the AG and the DA. She had strong conviction rates as far as crime, from what I understand. But the issue is the DA, neither in San Francisco nor the AG, has control over the city budget. They don't get to decide tax policy. That's not their purview. And so it's a very limited. And then when she's the senator from California, guess what she doesn't get to do? Anything about the California budget. The other thing she doesn't get to do, anything about California law. So you're asking her to make changes she was never empowered to make. That's an issue.
This fact that she wasn't in total control of the state, therefore we can't give any of the problems. We can't lay any of the problems upon her when she was just in senior leadership positions in the state. In what she had control, how did she improve it? She has no accomplishments, and this is why the Democrat machine has to hide her from the media.
That's ridiculous, because it's up to the California people to elect their representatives. And you can sit there and say she has no accomplishments, but she is accomplished. She has done those things. Now, what you don't like are her policies, and maybe MAGA doesn't like the fact that she's a black woman. And that's a fact.
Who said that? Who said that they don't like her because she's a black woman?
When you constantly when Lauren Boebert, who maybe can't read and write, says that Harris is a DEI hire.
Yes.
And yes. Okay. So she got all of those jobs because she's a black woman, and Lauren Boebert got her job because of her stellar intellect.
Do you think it was right for Joe Biden to say that he was going to find a black woman to appoint to the U.S. Supreme Court?
Absolutely. Same with the Supreme Court.
So why not lead on capability? Why not lead on meritocracy? What does her race add to her ability to interpret the Constitution?
Here's why. First of all, I know you like Clarence Thomas. You take his resume and compare it to Justice Jackson's resume, and there's no comparison whatsoever. So you like, without question, Thomas has the least accomplished academic credentials. The reason to pick a black woman is because the country's been around for 200 years. There's been over 200 Supreme Court justices, almost 200. 99% of them have been white men, and it's time for that. There's nothing wrong. No one could say that she's not qualified to be on the court. That's preposterous.
How does Justice Thomas's education at Yale Law make him less qualified?
Well, look at what she's done. She at every level she has judicial clerkships. She served as she clerked for the Supreme Court. I'm not
talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson. I'm talking about Clarence Thomas. You said that he was not academically qualified to be a justice.
He's not as qualified as her based on her academics. He's not as qualified. If you look at just the paper, if people sent you 2 resumes, you'd pick her out all the time.
I don't even know where she went to school. Where'd she go to school?
Harvard.
Okay, so Harvard's better than you.
No, I'm not saying Harvard's, but she got.
So you just said she's more qualified.
She is. Okay, she clerked for the Supreme Court. She clerked for the Court of Appeals. Thomas didn't have any clerkships. There's 9 people on the Supreme Court. 7 or 8 of them clerked for the Supreme Court.
So
who didn't?
So to you, does judicial philosophy fit into this at all?
No, I'm just saying.
No, judicial philosophy doesn't fit into this.
This station is always.
I would rather take Steve. I would rather take an originalist from DU Law School than some progressive from Harvard or Yale with lots of clerkships.
And that's fair, but don't say she's a DEI hire then.
Joe Biden said that.
You don't think it's appropriate to try to expand the court to make it look like America?
I don't think people's skin color has anything to do with their ability to interpret the Constitution.
If that's true, there'd never be a black president. There'd never be a black Supreme Court justice. There would never be any of that.
Why?
Why? Because it hadn't happened. No Republican has ever picked a black woman for the court.
I don't, that saying that because we didn't focus on people's skin color, we are therefore totally focused on people's skin color?
All I'm saying, you wouldn't have picked, there's no way that Justice Jackson is not qualified to be on the Supreme Court. That's all I'm saying. But here's the other thing I think. I think, Jeff, you're extraordinarily brilliant, and I think Trump's going to lose. But he could be saved by the Electoral College. He will lose a popular vote by a landslide.
I don't care about the popular vote. We don't elect presidents by the popular vote.
No. All right. So what about your guy down there in North Carolina? How do you think he's getting along?
Steve, we're running all around. I
Steve, we'll have to do that
appreciate
a different day. That's but that's good. I appreciate the call, Steve. And it's interesting when we get into the idea of the Electoral College, because it's interesting when we've seen other countries try to mirror what the American Constitution does and giving the people the voice and the control of the government. What's the one thing they've never duplicated? None of those countries.
States?
No, Electoral College. They've never gone to
do
the
they have
idea.
States, though?
No, but
do the other countries? I mean, because we're the United States.
I understand.
Of America.
I understand. But other countries could decide that this particular region is like a state. This particular region, they function that way in some ways inside of Italy. If you go from northern to southern Italy, they divide themselves almost by states. And there's that feeling inside of Germany as well. And there's that feeling inside of Spain as well. The Catalonia region is much, much different than some of the other parts in Spain. You go and you go to Madrid versus Barcelona.
But you're looking at the founding of our country. Remember the Great Compromise?
I understand
we were
that.
Individual states. We were essentially 13 little countries.
I understand that.
Decided to form one country.
Yes, but there are still districts, etc., that could use the idea of an electoral college in another form. Yeah, but no one has. No one has. I'm just saying no one has.
But Bill, if you're saying that the complaint is other countries haven't done that, what I'm pointing out is, well, that's because other countries aren't like us. And our founding was essentially 13 little countries that decided to get together, form one big country, and you had to compromise on how those little countries, those states, were going to have their say if they were going to get together and form one big country. Because if you're Rhode Island versus Virginia or New York, why would you join and give up your ability to have control over your little country, your little state, if it means that Virginia can all of a sudden come in and tell you what to do? So there was the great compromise. And part of the creation of what makes this country function is the idea that we don't just allow states like California, New York, Texas, the big population states, to tell the rest of the little states what to do all the time. All right, we'll get to the phone lines. Man, that was a fun opening morning. Look, are you a homeowner who's considering selling your home? Let Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team use their database of over 14,700 ready buyers to get you your home sold for top dollar. Many real estate agents make promises, but few have the proof to back it up. The Empower Home team has review after review from families they have served that back up what they say. They net their sellers 6.1% more on average, getting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. No matter who wins the election, no matter what kind of market we're in, the Empower Home team brings both experience and track record to help you navigate your home sale and get you top dollar. If your home doesn't sell, Gay Ribble will buy it. That's her guarantee to you. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com, GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We'll continue with Denver's talk leader, the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Weil in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The scientific director for the company that owned the Titan submersible that imploded last year while on its way to the Titanic wreckage testified that the sub had malfunctioned just prior to the fatal dive. Appearing before a U.S. Coast Guard panel this week, Stephen Ross told the board about a platform issue the experimental submersible experienced back in June of 2023, just days before it imploded on its way to the Titanic site. The malfunction caused passengers on board the submersible to tumble about, and it took an hour to get them out of the water. Ross says the submersible pilot, OceanGate co-founder Stockton Rush, crashed into bulkheading during the malfunction. A major victory coming in for religious freedom in Oregon after a church fought back against the city of Brookings for trying to restrict their ministry. Michael Harrington has more.
The city of Brookings will pay $400,000 in legal fees and has agreed to stop trying to restrict St. Timothy's Episcopal Church from ministering to the homeless. City officials had tried to limit the church to providing food and water to homeless people just 2 days of the week. Pastor Bernie Lindley tells Oregon Public Broadcasting, quote, "It certainly didn't have to come to this, but we had to stand up for our religious freedoms." Michael Harrington, SRN News.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
Friday on the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's top leader, News Talk 710 KNUS, and we have kicked off the phone lines. Woo, they are full. We've got lots of text messages. 8913, just going to school and getting elected are not accomplishments. All of them have done that. Mary from Wyoming, Kamala was unknown before Willie Brown got her elected. You never raised that. Willie Brown used her to stop his corruption investigation.
Well, I'm not sure about that one, but here's the thing is that Willie Brown left office for San Francisco mayor in 2004. Kamala reached the DA's office, I believe, in 2003. She then went on to be elected AG twice in Senate. Willie Brown had no position publicly that he could put her in that position. Plus, you don't get to name the AG, nor did he get to name the Senate.
Right,
People had to vote for her. So this narrative that Willie Brown is the reason she enjoyed success, I'm sorry, I disagree with it. I don't think that can be proven based on what happened inside of her career.
But we live in a blue state, and you know that unqualified people, Jenna Griswold, get elected all the time simply because of the party affiliation. And I think that's what happened with her.
Yeah, but again, it's not because of Willie Brown. That's where I push back on Mary. I love Mary to death, but I push back that Willie Brown is not the reason.
Launched, right? Didn't he help launch her? Put her on boards and stuff like that?
In some ways, yes. But however, she still had to go in front of voters. And unless Willie Brown went around bribing all the voters.
Like it's a competitive race between qualified people. And in a blue state, you end up with total nitwits that get elected simply because of the party.
But again, Willie Brown didn't do it. That's what I'm pushing back on. That phrase, Willie Brown didn't do that. That's it. That's
all
it.
Right,
it's
let's
Urkel.
go to the
Did
phone
I do
lines.
that? That's all it is.
Marcus, Aurora, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, guys. Hey, I listened to Steve on her accomplishments, but my question, and a lot of people say this, what she did not do and who endorsed her. When I look at it, I looked at Liz Cheney. She lost big time because what she did towards Trump.
Yeah.
And Dick, shooting his friend in the back, I hate to see him with a knife. But I remember this. Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harrison. So I just said, wow, Harrison needs Dick.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
We're not doing that on the air, but I appreciate that, Marcus.
That's
no.
Not appropriate.
No, not appropriate for this morning, Marcus, but appreciate you. Thanks
all right.
for the call, I guess.
We've got Marcus's line is open.
Surprisingly.
303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. You're listening to Denver's talk leader.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Axios reporting that the Harris-Walz campaign has done fewer interviews and press conferences than any major party's presidential pairing in modern U.S. history. My side of the argument is that the Democrat machine has to hide her because she's a radical progressive, and once America learns about that, they don't want to have anything to do with her. Bill making the argument that she doesn't need to do media interviews. No. Trump and Vance are doing that, and they're not winning the campaign, so just let them go.
As long as they keep inflicting punishment and hurt upon themselves, let them. There's no reason to go out there and give the press something else to talk about. That's what I would advise the Harris campaign. As long as J.D. Vance and Trump keep going out there and saying things like migrants are eating pets, and that some other things they've said Kamala was involved in a peace negotiations between Ukraine and Russia, which wasn't true. As long as they keep doing those kind of things, you don't have to talk to the press. Let them continue to self-immolate and just watch.
Let's go to the phone lines. Ken Evergreen, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jeff. I think Trump's the better guy. He's got a proven track record. That guy Steve that was on, I think I could reasonably prove that he was wrong on every account. Trump had a record politically, socially, and economically that's been unsurpassed in modern times.
That's untrue, Ken. I'm sorry. I'm going to push back on that. That is completely and totally untrue. That is something that Donald Trump says a lot. No. The idea that he had Ken, the idea that he had the best economy ever? No, not even close. The idea that he spent more time deporting people? Nope, not even close. That none of that is true. We can go a laundry list of things, but the issue is, and this is the issue, Ken, is I understand and I appreciate your point, and I think you have some strong points. But when you elevate it to not matched in modern times, that's where you cross the Rubicon. That's where that statement becomes untrue. But continue.
Well, let's look at San Francisco. I'd been there a couple times. It was beautiful. Now it's a ruination. That guy Steve was talking about the Supreme Court, about having people reflecting real America.
And Ken, do me a favor.
Well, we have a constitution, so hang on a second.
Yeah, I just want you to stop going back and go forward.
We've only got 1 or 2 blacks on the Supreme Court. That does reflect America, but I want the Constitution reflected in America, and she's too progressive and doesn't defend the Constitution to the utmost. She's on the other side of it, and really it comes down to, do we want a stable constitutional republic and a society that is more civil?
Well, Steve,
and Trump had a lot of that going on.
Steve, what about the fact that Donald Trump, in his own statement, said that the Constitution can and should be suspended at times? He said that. What about that?
Well, it's in the Constitution. It says there's a clause in there about public safety.
Yeah, but that's not why he said it.
Was that when the cities were being burned down?
Nope, not at all.
What was the
context?
Why
did he say? Well, you're saying he said it. Why did he say it?
Yeah, this is important.
Why?
Because of his lie about the election being stolen. He said when you have so much fraud and so many illegal votes, that then the Constitution can and should be suspended. He advocated for that based on his lie about the stolen election. That's on his social media platform. So when you talk about him defending the Constitution, remember that.
All right. We're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. I don't know about that one. We'll have to look into it. All right. We'll continue this conversation.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
7 a.m. in the Mile High City. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. We are Denver's talk leader. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text the show on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. So in reference to the previous hour, right at the very end there, talked about who is better committed to the Constitution. And who was the caller? We've had Steve, we've had Marcus. I forget the name.
Yeah,
but
Ken,
the caller, Ken saying that Kamala Harris is not committed to the Constitution, and Billy bringing up the tweet on Truth Social, or the post on Truth Social, that said a massive fraud of this type of magnitude allows for the termination of all rules and regulations and articles, even those found in the Constitution. It's December 3rd of 2022 by Donald Trump. Does that mean that Donald Trump's willing to throw out parts of the Constitution? Or is he making the argument that the Constitution's not a suicide pact?
So if Harris came out and said that because of gun rules and gun crimes and stuff and gun violence, we need to suspend portions of the Constitution, you'd be like, well,
no,
look at the context.
But that's
we need to. It allows the termination of
right.
things that are in the Constitution. If she
But,
came
I'm
out,
not saying
if she
that,
came out and said because of misinformation that we have to have termination
I'm not
of some
agreeing
things
with
in the
Trump on
Constitution.
this, though.
Yeah.
But the idea that but I think it's a leap to say that Donald Trump all of a sudden is willing to throw out major parts of the Constitution.
Well, only the
Because
parts he disagrees with.
I think the argument he's making is that if there's massive election fraud taking place on the level he believed it was in 2022, then the Constitution itself is not a suicide pact for the destruction of the country.
Yeah, the thing is that he had no proof that it was. So he's
Right,
doing it based on false
but
premises.
again, that's
Yeah. But again, that's
argument.
important.
The argument being that he's just willy-nilly wants to throw out parts of the Constitution.
Well, it is germane because based on his belief, he's willing to throw out parts of the Constitution. That's important, not based on what actually happened, based on his belief at the time for whatever he needs to accomplish. He's willing to take away
everyone makes
parts
their
of
decisions based upon their beliefs.
Not necessarily. No, a lot of people do it based on knowledge. A lot of people look at it and they may believe they can jump off a building and fly, but many people decide not to jump because they know gravity is going to impact them and they're going to hit that ground very, very hard. There are a whole bunch of things. Beliefs are different than knowledge, but the idea is that he's making this judgment based on a belief structure, not based on a knowledge structure. So what we are told based on this tweet is that Donald Trump, on his belief structure, will see at times we can suspend or terminate portions of the Constitution.
Isn't that every liberal in the Second Amendment, though? How is that any different? They believe that guns are causing violence in this country. Therefore, we need to suspend parts of the Second Amendment.
No, they're disagreeing with the interpretation, and the interpretation based on the individual right. And this is, we're not going to get into the gun argument this morning, but they disagree with the interpretation of the Second Amendment giving an individual a right universally to own a gun.
But that's a belief of theirs.
No, it's a ruling by the court, and they disagree with the court. They think the court is wrong on that one. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say necessarily a belief per se, but you can, even if it is a belief by theirs, it doesn't mean they're looking at terminating the Second Amendment. They're looking at putting restrictions and things on it. Donald Trump wasn't talking about putting restrictions on voting. Donald Trump wasn't talking about restrictions.
I don't agree with this, but I think it's a leap to say that he is on the same level of wanting to terminate parts of the Constitution as the left are.
All I'm going to say is that if Kamala Harris came out in whatever speech she was making and pointed to a portion of the Constitution and said, in this case, we need to terminate articles, regulations, even those found in the Constitution, everybody's hair would be on fire. Same thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's where he's willing to go.
But I almost think they are doing that. Just because they don't come out and say that
Fair critique, but I'm just saying that if it was
on record, I don't agree
words,
with Trump on that tweet, but I'm not quite sure
if it was given words. That's the
willy-nilly throwing out things on the Constitution.
And the only reason I bring that up is I'm not sitting here saying that he hates the Constitution, etc. I'm just talking about his transactional nature of how he operates. That because he wanted to accomplish a goal in this transactional nature, he's willing to do this. And the only reason I brought it up is because Ken talked about the fact that he is so willing to defend the Constitution. And I disagree, because in this case, when he wanted something else to happen, he was more than willing to terminate the portions of the Constitution that he felt were in his way. So I disagree with, and the only thing I'm saying is I disagree with the claim that Donald Trump at his core wants to protect the Constitution, because we have direct evidence that at times he thinks parts of it are unnecessary and shouldn't apply to him.
Yeah. So the Constitution is not a suicide pact is a line that's often attributed back to Abraham Lincoln when he suspended habeas corpus during the American Civil War.
Yeah.
So that's where that line comes from.
Pretty bad too.
All right. We'll get to the phone lines here in just a second. As you can imagine, if you just tuned in, we're having a spicy morning.
This is so much fun.
And we've already had to dump one car.
I know. Yeah, that was fun.
Maybe Blake Olson can lower the temperature a little bit. Likely not.
I'm going to use that caller's joke today, by the way.
I know. It's like only for us and some people on the stream, they're able to catch it because the FCC doesn't watch the stream. Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult not to laugh.
And here's the weird part. Imagine this. Okay, so that word went out over the stream. However, we get pinched not for the naughty word on the stream. We get pinched for running music that someone puts a copyright claim on.
It's such
That's
a funny
weird.
world. Yeah,
versus the fact that we can play the music here on terrestrial radio and then we can't say the bad words. But on the stream, bad word, okay. Somebody else says song, no. It's just, what the hell? Oh, well, yeah, go ahead, my friend.
It's not his fault that the Cheney's parents named him that. That's all I have to say. 54 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 86 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
Yeah, great time to break that out on this TGIF. Kamala cringe almost repeated it. VP Harris on with Oprah, and all of a sudden, the last 40 days, she has become the most patriotic American you've ever heard.
Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are, which includes freedom to make decisions about your own body, freedom to be safe from gun violence, freedom to have access to the ballot box, freedom to be who you are and just be, to love who you love openly and with pride, freedom to just be. And that's who we are. We believe in all that. And so this is a moment where we stand knowing what we are fighting for. We're not fighting against. It's what we're fighting for.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
God, can I vomit? Did you vomit? How many buckets of vomit could you? Oh my God.
I almost don't have words to describe how bad that is. So first of all, she has no context in what the principles of the founding of this country are. All right. The founding fathers were not fighting so you could have the freedom to terminate your own offspring. That idea is not in anywhere in the founding documents. Okay. We came from England so that we could terminate our own offspring. Come on.
Yes.
And then did you catch the lines about freedom from gun violence? Okay.
Right.
So if you look at that, if you look at the Second Amendment that way, toss the Second Amendment. Right.
Just throw it out.
Because she is about fundamentally transforming this country.
No question. She hates the Constitution.
She hates it. She wants to everything that this country was and is and has built.
No doubt.
Built on racism and sexism, and Kamala Harris's election is going to upend all of that. She wants to fundamentally transform this country.
No doubt.
And to hear her put that word salad together of freedom in an effort to try to make you feel good about it.
Right.
Come on.
Exactly. I want, if I was sitting there, I would say, yeah, the greatest freedom you gave to people was the freedom to just walk across the border,
right,
illegally.
That's exactly right.
And invade our sovereign country. Idiot. This is incredible. The New York City COVID czar, Dr. Jay Varma, here we go again, who got the mayor to create vaccine mandates and basically shut down the city in 2020. Remember 2020? Captured on an undercover video stating that he hosted sex parties during that time and bragging about the power and influence he had. Steven Crowder's undercover unit exposes the corrupt bureaucrats once again.
That was what we did during COVID because in August 2020, all of our friends, big group of friends and stuff, who were all just play Poly World, and he was just pent up. And so I did a whole testing protocol for everybody. It was a relatively small. I mean, small isn't no COVID test. It was 10 to 12 people.
This dude's so creepy, and it's just amazing. I mean, he really did, for the most part, shut down the city, and really you can look at it and shut down the country. Crowder confronted him and had a conversation with him later, and he had no remorse. And what's amazing to me, you got Steven Crowder and all these guys, independents. This is the stuff that the actual journalists and media companies around across the country, this is what they should be doing, but they don't. And we know why. And just another example of it. It's just amazing. I know it was hard to hear the audio, but the entire thing is incredible. A bipartisan House task force will be looking into the 2 Trump assassination attempts. The task force will start by focusing on, yes, the Secret Service and the reliance on state and local law enforcement at the former president's July rally in Pennsylvania, where he was grazed by a bullet to his ear. And by the way, remember 10 days later, they cremated the body of the shooter, of course. It's just incredible. The first hearing is scheduled for next Thursday. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is trying to lead their own investigation, but the Fed is not cooperating on Fox News Channel last night.
The answer is no, they're not being cooperative. Yes, I am concerned. I mean, for example, we were rebuffed. Our investigators were rebuffed just going to the fence line outside of Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. And so I think they've taken the position, they don't want the state of Florida to be involved in this. But here's the thing. There were multiple violations of Florida law across multiple jurisdictions. We think at least 3 judicial circuits. This guy, Ryan Routh, committed potential violations of Florida law. So we have a duty to investigate this. We have a duty to bring the appropriate charges. And we also have a duty to inform the public about how this happened. So I don't anticipate they're being cooperative. I think that they've just taken that position.
Yep, I don't expect them to be either. A man is pleading guilty to charges connected to a crash last December that killed a Broomfield mother and her teenage son. Authorities say a Toyota Tundra crashed into a Mazda CX-5 at Main Street and Miramonte Boulevard in Broomfield. The accident killed Melissa Powell and her 16-year-old son, Riordan, and the driver of the Toyota, Jose Menviar, was arrested on multiple charges. Menviar pleaded guilty Thursday to 2 counts of vehicular homicide. All right, college football tomorrow. CU at Baylor, UTEP at CSU as they try to bounce back after their loss to CU. Wyoming at North Texas and UNC at Stephen F. Austin in beautiful Nacogdoches, Texas. I'll be down there. 52 in Littleton, 51 in Broomfield, 54 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue on Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a warm and very nice late summer day. High temperatures about 7 to 10 degrees above average, near 90, mid-50s tonight. Cooler fall-like weather starts to move in for the last official day of summer this Saturday. 60s to 70s, showers and thunderstorms late, light to moderate rain likely. Highs 50s to 60s with rain Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, and we are off and running on a Friday morning, having a ton of fun. Would love to invite you to join us because we are Denver's talk leader. That means you are invited into the conversation. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line. Dan Caplis Law text line. You will not text Dan directly. You will text the studio, but the studio line is sponsored by Dan Caplis Law. 720.
We have Dan's number with the right money. Good. I'm just saying that, we are capitalists here. I'm not saying we're just going to give it away. We wouldn't do that to our friend Dan. But
now, if we're auctioning off phone numbers, I've got ones that could really get some money going.
You and me
both. Certain news anchors in Colorado here.
Oh, yeah, the news anchors, the politicians, stuff like that. Yeah. You and I could probably retire by the end of the show if we did that. All right, sorry, continue. Give us a text line, man.
Text line 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning, Antonio. It's good to hear from you. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Yeah, interesting conversation about Kamala Harris and what skills or qualifications she has or doesn't have. But let's stipulate. Obviously, Jeff, you're. It doesn't matter what Trump does. You're going to or says you're going to vote for him no matter what. But I'll give you, I think, the other side as to what people see in Kamala that as to why they support her. Intellect, competency, discipline, self-discipline, and I think probably her values as well. And I don't think anything shows that more than the debate. She had a strategy going in. She worked hard at that debate. She knew that she could lay down grenades one at a time, and Trump couldn't walk away from them. He couldn't walk away. He had to bite on every single one of those and then humiliate himself ultimately. And I know you and Donald Trump think he won, but you're about the only two that think he won that debate. And the polls since the debate have shown that.
Tony, with Kamala's intelligence, as you talk about her character, her capabilities, why is she on pace to do the fewest interviews and press conferences of any major party's presidential pairing in modern U.S. history?
You know what? I think Billy's probably onto something here, and that is, at this point, she doesn't need to. And she's in whatever audience.
But why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to talk to the American people? Why wouldn't you want to connect with them? Why wouldn't you want to share your vision? Because polls are showing. Hold on, Tony. Polls are showing that people don't know that much about her and want to learn more about where she stands. Why wouldn't you do that?
All right. So, just stop right there. So, let's also stipulate that the people around her and the people around Trump, his team is excellent. Her team is excellent. He won't comply with what his team is telling him to do. She will comply with what her team is telling her to do. And she still has to lay out more economic plans in more detail before the election. But right now, what she's doing is working. And so they don't need to break anything. They just can continue. Let's use it. Billy pointed out, Trump is exploding at every turn. Think about this Sunday morning, 10:23, wakes up, sends out this crazy one-line tweet. I hate Taylor Swift.
Oh, I loved it. It was a
I
joke,
know
by
you
the
do.
way. It was
Of course
a joke,
you do.
but
See,
yeah,
that's
no,
the-
he
all right,
slays
right
these,
there's the difference.
He slays these sacred cows in our culture. He has no fear.
All right,
I love it.
You,
Yeah,
all
Swifties
right, so
didn't
let's
take it
stay
as a
right
joke.
there.
I'm just saying
That's
the
what you.
Swifties
That's
did
what.
not take it as a
That's
joke.
what you like.
Careful.
That's
though.
what you
Yeah.
like. You think he's being politically incorrect, and you cheer that. You're excited about that.
Yeah.
A lot of people are deeply offended by that, and can't even go back in history and find
If
a
you're
president
deeply
who's-
offended about his comments about a pop star, then check yourself.
No, don't twist it. I know there's only so much time, but don't twist that. The point is, after the debate, he got on and gave to Fox and gave a fairly reasonable response to her supporting Kamala. He said, well, how could she possibly have supported Biden? And so, she is a Democrat. She's eventually going to come around to Kamala. It makes sense. Probably will cost her a little bit of business, though, in the marketplace. Okay, fairly reasonable. But after he stews about it, and he realizes the damage that it's done, 400,000 people go out and register like in 24 hours. And he stews about it. Then he wakes up on Sunday morning and he has absolutely no self-control,
Tony,
no
I gotta
advisors
ask you a
around
question.
him.
I want to go back to Kamala Harris and the press thing. I got to ask you a question about this. Okay, now we all know it has been proven over and over again that the media is overwhelmingly progressive, like 80-90%. Nobody in the newsroom donates to Republicans. They're all progressives. Okay. Kamala Harris won't sit down to take questions from people like that, yet we expect her as the president of the United States to take on Xi, to take on Putin, to take on North Korea. She won't even sit down and have a conversation with media that's totally in the tank for her, Tony.
Fine. You say in the tank for her. There are conservative media outlets that are completely in the tank for Trump, and then there's a whole bunch of media that's in the tank for the majority of the country. You call it mainstream. You could also call it majority. They represent the majority of the country, and so you make it a dirty word.
Tony, when have you seen Kamala Harris take tough questions and showcase that she can lead? And then be able to translate that into Vladimir Putin. She won't even sit down with the media to take tough questions. Yet you think she can negotiate with Vladimir Putin?
All right. You come from a space right now where you would say Biden doesn't have a clue, but Biden, how he couldn't stand up to Putin and all of that. I come from a space that will say, and I think historians will back this up, he's handled foreign affairs particularly well, and the economy particularly well.
Was Afghanistan on that list of particularly well?
Afghanistan was a cluster for a number of reasons, but the two big wars that are going on, his response has been impeccable. There wasn't a better response to them. You come from a different space. I come from the space that says that's right on, and she supports those two positions on those two wars going on in the world. So yes, I think she's the right one. Trump scares me. His position on NATO, his position on Ukraine. But if he's
Tony,
right,
there were no
13
wars when
presidents
he was
before
the
him are
president of
wrong.
the United States. There were no
Pardon me?
wars. There were no wars that he was fighting during that time.
I know.
All right, we've got to run.
This is
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
sorry,
Tony.
You got to run. Yeah.
All right, I want to get to this. This has been a great conversation. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, that was fun. Even the cursing, we appreciate that.
Last night, and I
Shout out to
appreciate Tony didn't go in all the way with that word. Way to practice self-control. I'm not sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know.
So last night,
yeah,
Mike Coffman. And man, I really do like Mike.
I do too.
And when he leads with strength in Aurora,
yeah,
on the homeless issue, illegal immigration issue, I'm all for him. This we'll get to this in a second. But he was asked directly, would he be on the stage with Donald Trump if he came to Aurora? That's real simple. That's real simple. Absolutely. You get on the stage with Donald Trump if he visits Aurora. When we get to this audio, a little heartbroken, Mike. We'll get to this in a second, but Billy, why don't you tell us about Balance Well Space?
Yeah, I'm working with a medical team that I want you to talk to because I'm no longer living my life in pain in ways that I used to. I did a lot of dumb things when I was a kid, and I've got a lot of lingering problems. I have 2 vertebrae in my lower back that are fusing together. I've got a busted up shoulder, torn meniscus in my left knee. It's a long list. I've had more than 500 stitches in my life. So yeah, I did make calculated decisions and take calculated risks, but turns out I'm really, really bad at math. You may be in the same situation. I know that as we get older, you start having those daily aches and pains, and they get bigger. And sometimes your body starts compensating by creating other aches and pains elsewhere because of things you're not doing. Now, this is what I'm talking about. There are choices in your life that you aren't making right now, things you're not doing, things you have stopped doing because specifically of the pain you're going through every day. Maybe it's a chiropractic issue. Maybe it's a neuropathy. Maybe it's like me that you've got broken stuff. You've got discs that are missing. You've got meniscuses that are gone. So meniscuses, that's fun to say. Anyway, I want you to talk to my team at Balance Well Space. This is the medical team that I trust. Check them out at balancewellspace.com. Why are they different? A really weird term that I hadn't been exposed to before, integrative medicine. What does that mean? It means that under one roof, in one office, they combine a whole bunch of different treatments that can help you feel better. All in one office visit. You can get chiropractic care, neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more. Plus, they have a bunch of non-invasive, that's the key, I'm not talking surgery or cutting or anything, non-invasive, cutting-edge treatments that are nothing short of something you'd see out of Star Trek or Star Wars. But they can't help you unless you talk to them. balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. They're brand new here in Denver. Great offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, and plenty of parking. This is what they do. You go in and you talk to the team, Dr. Julie, Dr. Jez, Christy, Sarah, B, and they ask you about what you're dealing with. And then also, more importantly, what are you not doing? Because this is about goals and getting you feeling better. They then create a custom pain plan just for you. And then in the one office visit, you get all of the treatments you need. You're not going to your primary care physician and then this physician over here for chiropractic care and this physician here is going to help you with another thing and this physician here doing something else. That's not what you're doing. You can still even hang on to your primary care physician. That's fantastic. Keep doing that. But take all the rest of them off the table and enjoy integrative medicine. One office visit, one time, and get it all knocked out. You just go from office to office to office and deal with the entire medical team. The best part about it is every couple of weeks, they talk to you and they talk to each other and reevaluate your care. In your current medical treatment, they're not doing that. They're not getting together and having a conference call about you. This team meets in the same office and they talk to you and they talk to themselves about what's going on and what changes they need to make. They've made some adjustments in my care and it's nothing short of remarkable. Right now, as I sit here talking to you, I'm regenerating part of a disc in my lower back. I am also regenerating the meniscus that is in my left knee. I wasn't able to do that years before until I found Balance Well Space, and the difference in my life is remarkable. My left knee, the bum knee, is now my strong knee. I found myself in bar trivia the other night leaning on my left knee. That's crazy. I never would have done that years ago. And that's the change they can make in your life. I want you to experience the difference that it is not living with pain. You don't have to have this every day, just like I'm not living in the pain that I was living in for years. But you've got to talk to them first. balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. I want you to experience the same change in your life that I am going through right now as you and I are talking. But they can't do it unless you reach out to them. balancewellspace.com. And do me a favor, tell them you heard about them here on Jeff and Bill.
Great to hear, Bill. We'll continue this conversation. You're not going to want to miss this audio from Mike Coffman on Channel 9 last night. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
At this hour, I'm Christina Weil in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
The scientific director for the company that owned the Titan submersible that imploded last year while on its way to the Titanic wreckage testified that the sub had malfunctioned just prior to the fatal dive. Appearing before a U.S. Coast Guard panel this week, Stephen Ross told the board about a platform issue the experimental submersible experienced back in June of 2023, just days before it imploded on its way to the Titanic site. The malfunction caused passengers on board the submersible to tumble about, and it took an hour to get them out of the water. Ross says the submersible pilot, OceanGate co-founder Stockton Rush, crashed into bulkheading during the malfunction. A major victory coming in for religious freedom in Oregon after a church fought back against the city of Brookings for trying to restrict their ministry. Michael Harrington has more.
The city of Brookings will pay $400,000 in legal fees and has agreed to stop trying to restrict St. Timothy's Episcopal Church from ministering to the homeless. City officials had tried to limit the church to providing food and water to homeless people just 2 days of the week. Pastor Bernie Lindley tells Oregon Public Broadcasting, quote, "It certainly didn't have to come to this, but we had to stand up for our religious freedoms." Michael Harrington, SRN News.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
right, welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Donald Trump's supposed to be coming to Aurora in the next 2 weeks. We don't know when, where, how, but
So cool.
I want to be there. Hopefully, maybe we can get an interview. We could talk to the people that were there. It'll be a ton of fun. And that's in a big part because we're not a blue or red state or even a purple state anymore. So we're ignored.
It'd be a lot of fun to be there. Hope we can get there.
I feel like I'm back in middle school again. Just all the cute girls looking at other places, people.
Yeah, exactly.
Not me.
Yeah, I know.
And that's what's happened to politics. But we get a chance to have Donald Trump here. And Mike Coffman was asked about it. Mike Coffman, the mayor of Aurora, on Channel 9 yesterday.
No matter where it would happen, though, Coffman told me he would not be part of it.
Well, what I hope to do is maybe not be on the stage with the president, but to be able to show the president, to offer a tour of my city.
Would you stand on stage with him?
Those are campaign rallies. I would hope that I could meet with the president, but I don't necessarily need to attend a rally with the president.
It's so painful. It's so painful. So first of all, that's a very easy answer. You're a Republican. He's a Republican. He's the top of the ticket. You're not joining his administration. You don't have to agree with everything he ever does. But yes, absolutely. You get on the stage with the guy. And as we saw, Bill, when we went down and interviewed people, you have residents, whether they're illegal or not, in the city of Aurora being intimidated by Venezuelan gang members, okay? And you get up there and you go, I will not allow my citizens to be intimidated by this. Now, what the mainstream media is trying to do is run around out there and say, well, Donald Trump said the entire city is taken over and you have Venezuelan gangs on every street corner. In fact, the In-N-Out's now run by a Venezuelan gang. No, he may have exaggerated during the debate and said that the entire city was taken over, but that's not what we're talking about here. You have a Venezuelan gang problem that has taken over some apartment complexes. They're harassing, intimidating, they're carrying around big, long guns, and they're threatening the people that live there. This should be confronted. This is not complicated. We're happy to have the President of the United States raising this issue. We're going to solve this, and we're going to protect the people of our community. It's that simple. Why you have to backtrack on it, why you have to equivocate on it, why you have to hesitate on it, I don't get it at all.
Now, I know we're going to go calls here in just a second, and I can understand, and I'll get to that in a little bit. I can understand why Coffman's making this choice, but I wanted to add this into the discussion, something that our listeners aren't able to get from that audio clip. It's the visual. When Coffman is asked the question about getting up on stage with Donald Trump, he goes into the speech about it being a campaign event, etc. It's the nonverbal communication that is most important in that clip, the part that you can't see. He's shaking his head no. That is a subconscious response. That's body language. He is telling you no, he's not going to, regardless of the language that he's saying over the top. He is delivering to you, our listeners, and Jeff and Francis, who's on the line with us, and the other callers. He's telling you no without saying no. That's the most important of that clip that you can't see. But still, he's saying no.
I mean, Bill, when we went down and talked to those people, Mexican immigrants, Guatemalan immigrants want more police. They want a stronger presence. You, Mayor Coffman, by simply addressing this issue and being strong on it and saying, we are not going to allow our citizens to, don't get pulled into the Channel 9. Well, he said the entire city is good. Well, Channel 9 also said that this was just a landlord dispute. Okay.
And a code violation.
There are people whose lives are being threatened that are going to respond positively to strength in leadership right now, which is what Donald Trump brings in this situation. Kamala Harris, open border, allowing these problems. Mike Johnston, Jared Polis, the whole sanctuary city. It's the weakness of our political leaders that are creating these problems by responding in strength, by standing with the president. You are going to be better applauded, better appreciated, better received in the city of Aurora than running from this situation, in my opinion.
Yeah,
That's my thoughts.
And I'll get to mine. We're going to talk to Francis here in a second, and I'll tell you why I actually think it. While I agree that, yes, I believe that if you're wearing the Republican jersey, you probably should be up on stage with Donald Trump. However, I do think that Mike Coffman is being clever strategically, but I'll explain that after the call.
All right, let's get to the phone lines here. By the way, we have a very special birthday celebration for Francis.
Do. Yes.
Welcome, Francis, to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yes, and before we get to your comments, Jeff and I want to serenade you.
I feel like we need that.
Yeah, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Francis.
The great caller, Francis.
The great caller. Happy birthday to you. Very happy birthday from the Jeff and Bill Show. Thanks for participating, man. How are you doing?
That was hilarious. That's great, you guys. That actually might just have made my day.
Oh, that makes me really sad that what you have planned for the rest of the day, if that's the highlight. But I love you. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. It's very kind of you guys. Hey, okay. Well, gosh, now you got me all rattled. Here's the deal. I think it would make sense for Coffman to just get up there with Trump for a period of time, just swallow his pride and his dignity and be a part of the circus, even if it's, where you're cleaning up the elephant poop. But so I think that is probably a mistake, but you got to look at this in context. I think Coffman lost his seat basically because of Trump. And Coffman has made very clear he is not a cultist in any way, shape, or form. And there is an element to this whole visit that is a lot of coffin writing by Trump when there's probably only, I don't think there's a body in the coffin. There shouldn't be a coffin in the first place because of the problem. But, this is, no matter what you do here, there's a little bit of grandstanding, and you can call it exaggeration, whatever, but there's an element of that, and I think Coffman is right to be put off by that. And I think it would be better for everybody if he would just let Trump tour the city with him and just kind of show that it's not, burning down and there's a problem and there's a way to address it and not make a mountain out of a molehill.
But Francis,
there shouldn't be a molehill at all.
Isn't the point of this, though, to highlight open border, sanctuary state, and sanctuary city policies, right? Like we're getting into this bizarre nitpicking. KNUS does this. Well, they said it was the entire city's been taken over. Okay. Well, and Channel 9 at one point was reporting it was a code violation. So we're missing the trees from the forest here. President Trump has an opportunity to point to a city that has been negatively affected by open borders, sanctuary cities, and sanctuary states. That is an actual problem. Mike Coffman should get on the stage and address it and keep it focused there. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. The issue is the issue. I'm not overlooking that, and I'm not trying to minimize that. But I think it would be an opportunity for Trump to quit being such a. This kind of gets into what the prior conversation is that both these campaigns have just redlined what they can offer anybody in this election. I mean, they don't have much more to say, do, offer, or anything. And I think it would help Trump to actually get a little more. I don't want to use the phrase, but I'm going to use the phrase granular and not so sweeping and ultimate qualifiers. And just go and say and look and see and say, look, this is a great city. It's got a problem. The problem shouldn't be here at all. Maybe I over-exaggerated it for illustration's sake, but it's here, and I have a solution. And then I would respect him. But instead, just these, everything's going to hell in a handbag. It doesn't hold water, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows that.
Do you think they do? I think a lot of, look, we're in the last 50 days of a presidential election. I worked on one in 2012, back when Mitt Romney was claiming Barack Obama was going to, its second term of Barack Obama was going to irreparably harm this nation, that type of thing. So we're in the fever pitch. We are definitely in the fever pitch, but I think Mike Coffman hesitating about it was the wrong move. He doesn't have to jump all in. He doesn't got to put on a MAGA hat and get up on stage. But this is about the larger national issue of open border sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. Francis, what are you going to do for your birthday?
I'm planning a golf tournament, and my car wouldn't start this morning, so I'm now Ubering into the tournament. And me Ubering into a golf tournament is just silly on so many levels because it doesn't make a lick of sense. It just doesn't.
Well, at least you didn't get arrested heading to the golf tournament like another golfer did. Well, best of luck out there. Hope you get a hole in one today, Francis.
Yeah, exactly. And remind them that because it's your birthday, you get an automatic 3 extra mulligans. Just because.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should.
You should.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm going to play this up.
Yes, you should. You should, my friend. Tell us how it goes. Have a great weekend. I appreciate you and happy birthday.
Want to talk to you about my good friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. He's the real deal. That matters because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. You hire one of those ambulance chasing dudes in an injury case. It sends a message that maybe you're not serious about this. Dan Caplis is serious. He's serious on the values. He's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes, but he's serious about winning. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. He's so trusted, and he delivers that Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. It's a serious firm for serious cases, and you're probably thinking to yourself, it must just be for the rich and wealthy. No, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, even if you don't right now, why don't you just put his phone number in your phone? You get in that car accident, you get hurt, you don't want to be scrambling. You can call Dan immediately, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Questions to the listeners. Should Mike Coffman join Donald Trump on stage when Trump visits in the next 2 weeks? Or should Mike Coffman distance himself from all the craziness of a presidential campaign? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So Mike Coffman's asked about whether or not he's going to join Donald Trump on stage when he visits in a few weeks.
No matter where it would happen, though, Coffman told me he would not be part of it.
Well, what I hope to do is maybe not be on the stage with the president, but to be able to show the president, to offer a tour of my city.
Would you stand on stage with him?
Those are campaign rallies. I would hope that I could meet with the president, but I don't necessarily need to attend a rally with the president.
That's Mike Coffman talking with Channel 9 KUSA last night, and part that you missed was his nonverbal. Right there at the end when he talks about it being a campaign rally, he's shaking his head no during the conversation. So he is saying no. Jeff feels that because he's wearing the jersey, he needs to get up on stage with Donald Trump, and I would agree because he's wearing the jersey. However, I understand the strategy behind why Coffman wouldn't get up on stage because we've all had that friend or that instance where maybe you're hanging out there and you're at the game and your friend turns to you and it's like, you know, here in about 20 minutes, I'm going to go streaking on the field. And you're like, I'm going to go see what the hot dog stand. You're going to get far away from them because of what's going to happen, because of the collateral damage, because of the backdraft, because of the blowback. And my opinion is that Coffman is doing this strategically because of what Trump has the propensity to say on stage. That when he's up there, if he starts saying the entire city of Aurora is being taken over by gangs and you guys can't do this and this, and then he talks about the people eating the pets from the Haitian immigrants and he talks about other cities, he gets to leave. Coffman has to clean up the mess. As Francis was talking about, I believe, and he talks, or is it Tony talking about the elephant droppings on stage? It's kind of the idea that I think he's trying to create separation because he doesn't want to have to answer those questions for the next 2 weeks from local media on why did he say this? Do you agree with him? Do you agree with him? He's trying to distance himself rather than pulling the Kamala Harris strategy, and just not talking to the media because that's what you'd have to do.
And
that's my opinion.
I only see Republicans doing this. I never see Democrats. You have things that Kamala Harris has said in her past, things she says now, and you have this all-in effort. And in politics, I just think you go all in, you go through it. And when you dance, particularly on this issue and how it's affected the people of Aurora, you're signaling weakness when you should be leading in strength. And this is an issue that you can lead in strength on. The sanctuary cities, the sanctuary state, the open border policies have harmed our communities. We listen to actual illegal immigrants that are harmed by these Venezuelans. They don't even have to be legal citizens. These Venezuelan gangs are harming people, and you can lead on this issue. And it's only the media, it's only the left that makes you want to dance on this. I actually think the people of Aurora would appreciate strength on this issue.
I think you're right. I'd agree with you on that. I'm surprised he's not get up on stage. I agree with you that, that's probably what he should do, but I can see the strategy.
But, Donald Trump hasn't always been great for Republicans in Colorado. Cory Gardner can tell you all about that.
Yeah. And in some cases, Coffman too.
So I get the hesitation, but in politics, my motto is always go through, never around. But that makes me a little different in politics. All right. Coming up next, we're going to talk about this Initiative 91 and the mountain lion hunting ban. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
It is 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, September 20th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. We are Denver's talk leader. You are invited to be a part of the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you woke up in the greatest country in history, and we're off and running this morning with engaging discussions, critical analysis, and your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Initiative 91, the mountain lion hunting ban. Is this good for Colorado?
At first, I was really concerned because I thought, wait, hang on. What's this going to do to happy hour at Elway's? I'm like, oh, wait, sorry. I was thinking cougars, not mountain lions. Yes, I was totally confused. At first, I was like, oh, this is really going to hurt business. I'm like, oh, no, wait, sorry. This is the mountain lion thing. Okay, totally different.
Mountain lions, bobcats, and lynx. That is hilarious. Yeah. And if you've been to Elway's or Shanahan's, you know what that bar scene looks like.
If you know, you know.
We're going to talk with Dan Gates. He's the executive director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, on his thoughts on this. It's ballot box biology all over again. We did this with wolves. Now we're doing it with mountain lions. Should uninformed people living in Boulder and Highlands Ranch in Denver be making decisions about all these things? You can probably guess where I fall on this, but we'll talk to Dan here in just a second. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
TGIF, Jeff and Billy, 56 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 86 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Kamala on with Oprah last night, and they had a question from a young couple.
We ended up giving up our apartment, moving in with our parents, who were so gracious to take us in for over a year so that we could save money and ultimately buy a home, because that's what we thought the American dream was, to get married and buy a home and have a baby. And now here we are, and our mortgage is incredibly higher than what we thought it would be. And my sister and our brother-in-law are living with us right now so that they can hopefully one day do the same. And while it's beneficial for us because they help us pay off some of our mortgage, it's also beneficial for them because they can save on cheaper rent. But we really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Hold on. Before she answers, do not vote for her if you want to buy a house.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah. First of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And
she travels
in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family, and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that.
I wonder why.
And there are a number of ways. One is bringing down the cost of everyday necessities, including groceries.
Oh my God.
That's it. Well, that's
her answer.
That's easy. Do it.
Yeah, do it then. You're right.
Right. Like,
exactly.
We need to bring down the cost of groceries. Okay, go.
Yeah,
go do
it. She doesn't want you to live in a house. She wants you to live in a box, and they all want you to ride on trains. Do not vote for them if you want to live in a single family house and try to have a safe community and safe neighborhoods in a sovereign nation. They don't care about you. I promise you. And oh God, I hope we don't find out. I just pray, my goodness. Oh goodness. So they're just looking to her for the end. No. Go the other way. I'm just telling you, young people. And you know what? A lot of young people are. We all know, let's see. Where am I at here? Okay. Oh, Here we go. This should get your blood boiling.
Kamala scrambles. She talks in your brain.
I'm serious, man. I mean, it's not, and it isn't that she puts me to sleep. She puts me in another planet.
I know.
God. I'm like, wait a minute. What was the question? All right. The New York City COVID czar, Dr. Jay Varma, who got the mayor once again to create the vaccine mandates and basically, shut down the city. In 2020, people lost their jobs. They watched their family members die. They weren't able to talk to them. Just all this crazy stuff. He was on undercover video stating that he hosted sex parties during that time and bragging about the power and influence he had. Steven Crowder's undercover unit exposes the corrupt bureaucrats once again.
Do you think you'd have gotten a hard time if the New York City found out that you're having sex parties during COVID?
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been real embarrassing.
Yeah, you
would have been real embarrassing.
Actually, the only time I felt kind of nervous was fairly early on, right when we were about to do the vaccine mandate, right before we did it.
So it was hard to hear, but he said it would be a big story. It would have been real embarrassing. Incredible, right? Remember who you vote for. With this guy's on the left as well. He's a nut job. With just 46 days to go until the election, early voting is getting underway in 3 states today. Voters in Minnesota, South Dakota, and Virginia are now able to cast their ballots. Harris will hold rallies in the 2 key swing states of Georgia, Wisconsin, and then meanwhile, Trump will attend a fundraiser in Miami. Jury deliberations are expected to begin today in the trial of Ahmad Alissa, the man charged in the deadly mass shooting at the Boulder King Supers. Alissa faces numerous charges accusing him of shooting and killing 10 people at the grocery store on Table Mesa Drive. He has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. Jurors are scheduled to start deliberating after closing arguments. Wall Street opening lower after the Dow closed above 42,000 for the first time, and stocks surged Thursday following a decline in new jobless claims along with the Federal Reserve's half-point rate cut. Shares in FedEx were down more than 10% after the shipping giant reported a steep drop in quarterly profits. College football once again tomorrow. The Buffs go for another victory. They take on Baylor in Texas in Waco. UTEP at CSU as they try to bounce back. Wyoming at North Texas in Denton, and Northern Colorado in Nacogdoches, Texas at Stephen F. Austin, trying to get their first victory of the season and in 15 games. 51 in Castle Pines, 54 in Glendale, 56 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF, Blake Olson News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a warm and very nice late summer day. High temperatures about 7 to 10 degrees above average, near 90, mid-50s tonight. Cooler fall-like weather starts to move in for the last official day of summer this Saturday. 60s to 70s, showers and thunderstorms late, light to moderate rain likely. Highs 50s to 60s with rain Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, in just a few weeks, ballots are heading out October 10th. Actually, October 9th, October 10th. They're going to be mailed to you, so you need to be informed on these. You have 14 ballot initiatives to choose from. Those are just statewide. You're going to get all the local ones, too. So a lot this election. Proposition 127 prohibits trophy hunting, defined as the intentional killing, wounding, pursuing, or entrapping of mountain lions, bobcats, or lynx, or discharging or releasing any deadly weapon at a mountain lion,
Yes. This trophy
Bobcat or
hunting
lynx.
does not include the happy hours at Shanahan's Airways. Just saying that's not included
That's where
here.
trophy
I was
hunting takes
very
place.
yes, I was very confused the first time I read this. I was like, I have friends that no, I'm kidding.
Tomorrow I'm going to release my ballot guide. It's all done. Just going to make sure it's fact checked and grammatically correct. I'll tell you where I fall in this.
Oh, and also you're spending a special extra day with us tomorrow as
Tomorrow.
well. Yeah,
That's
because
right.
Pete Boyles is doing some stuff. He's got some personal things going on. So you are filling in for him. You're going to be flying solo, my friend, because I'm going to be doing the other FM radio stuff at the time. So I unfortunately cannot join you. It hurts that I can't do this on the air, but
will not continue. Instead,
I know.
Tony and all of those that agree with you, Steve, are going to have to take on your role.
They are. They're going to have
Call to debate.
And part of what you're doing tomorrow is you're going to walk everybody through the ballot initiatives.
Yes.
One of them being Proposition 127, we're going to talk to Dan Gates about.
So I'm opposed to it. I don't like 127.
Yeah.
I don't like ballot box biology. I don't like what we did with the wolves. I think it takes people that don't think twice about this, hands them a ballot, gives them the ability to make a decision, and the experts in the room aren't part of the conversation. So I'm against it, but I want to hear from Dan Gates. He's the executive director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. He joins us on Zoom. You can see his smiling face on our YouTube X channel. That's a great beard.
That's an awesome
I had
beard.
a beard like that at one point. I was getting into my tie, though. But Dan, thanks for being on the Jeff and Bill show.
I'm a little jealous here. I don't think I can grow a beard like that. I don't think I have this thing. I have no body hair. I can't grow facial hair very well. I have to just tell you, Dan, that's impressive. I've got a little beard envy today for you. So I appreciate you joining us.
Well, thanks. I don't have to worry about getting caught in the tie. That's for sure. So
you've chosen a good career. No ties.
So Dan, tell us
ties.
where you guys as Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management fall on Proposition 127.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys this morning. I mean, Colorado's dealing with a bunch of tumultuous issues, as you mentioned, 14 ballots on the ballot this year. And there's a lot of things that people need to be educated about, but nothing to us more important than the ballot box biology component that specific extremist groups continually try to bring to the table. And I do want to correct something real quick that you mentioned, and I think that you maybe had read the old language, but the ballot title itself is not trophy hunting. It's hunting as a whole. It doesn't have anything to do with trophy hunting except for it defines trophy hunting in the measure. But if you would allow me, I would read the exact language of what it says now that
Please
people will
do.
be voted on.
Please do.
So it says a change to the Colorado revised statutes concerning a prohibition on the hunting of mountain lions, lynx, and bobcats, and in connection therewith, prohibiting the intentional killing, wounding, pursuing, entrapping, or discharging or releasing of a deadly weapon or of a mountain lion, or bobcat, or lynx, creating 8 exceptions to this prohibition, including the protection of human life, property, and livestock, establishing a violation of this prohibition as a Class 1 misdemeanor, and increasing fines and limiting wildlife license privileges for persons convicted of this crime. And the reason that's important, guys, is because they define trophy hunting in the measure as hunting with intentionally stalking, pursuing, or intentionally killing a mountain lion, bobcat, or lynx. And for the listeners that don't know, lynx are already state and federally protected in the lower 48, and they can't be harvested anyway. So they threw that in as a secondary clause in case they ever get to be delisted, that they don't want them to ever be harvested. And then the exceptions that they give in this measure are exceptions to the rule that Coloradans already have the right to be able to do under Colorado Department of Agriculture regulations and Colorado Parks and Wildlife regulations. So that they act like they're giving us something that we already can do, but it's a smoke and mirrors game when they turn around and talk about trophy, and the measure doesn't have anything to do with trophy. It has to do with hunting as a whole and the manner that we hunt.
Now, we have anywhere, according to Google, 3,800 to 4,400 mountain lions in Colorado, and they're already managed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, right?
Well, not only are they managed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, they're exceptionally managed by Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And when mountain lions became a big game species back in 1965, there was roughly 200 of them on the landscape at that point in time. But sportsmen and women at that time, even agricultural-minded ranchers and farmers, and the old game and fish came together, and they went from a nuisance species, from a predator, to a big game species, and became highly regulated. And now today, from 1965, we have roughly 4,400, not including kittens, with 55 years of science-based regulated management that the proponents of this measure fail to acknowledge. And they often say, if we continue to hunt mountain lions in this manner, they will become extinct. Well, nothing is further from the truth, because the numbers have increased 20 or 30 fold since 1965, since we started regulating the harvest of those mountain lions.
Dan Gates is joining us, Executive Director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. I want to talk about terms and definitions there, because I think some of the things you enumerated is very interesting. Talk to us about what happens when something goes from being defined as a predator species to a big game species, and why that is very beneficial for certain populations. I'm with you on this one, that I think that when you stop identifying certain animal populations as predators and instead as a big game species, it changes the ability and how they're managed in a much better way ecologically and also for the people. But talk to us about the difference. What does it mean when you define something as a predator species, then all of a sudden it becomes a big game species, and how it could be either negative or positive?
Well, I mean, given the credit to Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I appreciate the question, but they're in charge of 961 species of wildlife, 78 of which are game species, and the big game species that we have fall under the guise of a combination of depredation laws, rules, and regulations, and season structures and quotas that flow into a variety of different mechanisms of science, including test and permits that you have to get, and quotas that are filled, and season structures and methods of take and defined units and so forth. Now, if a mountain lion kills a sheep or a goat or a cow today, that landowner, that owner, is available to be compensated under the big game side of things for the Department of Agriculture or Colorado Parks and Wildlife. If they're taken out of the big game status that they've been in for 55 years, they no longer get compensated for that animal, because they're not considered part of the game damage side of things. So when they went from a predator nuisance side, just as wolves did at one point in time, and as the human population grew and the perspectives changed a little bit differently, but realizing that nobody wanted anything to become extinct. They just didn't want it to be able to, they wanted to be able to protect their own livestock and so forth. So when those plans were implemented back in 1965, that's what's gotten us to where we're at today, to where we have a sustainable population in perpetuity. And so when you get from a predator or nuisance, and as you can see on my shirt here, I run a wildlife control business, and I've been doing this for 37 years. Nobody wants to see anything disappear, but there has to be some management objectives to be able to turn around and say, what's best for the wildlife species, what's best for the landscape, what's best for the other wildlife species that are affected by or within that particular wildlife species, and what's affected to the people, whether they have the problem or whether they want to enjoy it, or they just want to know that it's appropriately managed. It's a complex deal, and you can't do it by checking a box and expect it to come out all good, just as we've seen on wolves so far.
Talking to Dan Gates, who's the Executive Director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. How many hunting tags are given a year for mountain lions, in light of the fact there are 4,400 of them in the state?
Well, that's a heck of a question, because 2,500 licenses or thereabouts were sold last year. And out of that, there was a 19% success with 502 mountain lions being harvested under that. Now, that doesn't include damage, and that doesn't include depredation. It doesn't include roadkill or instances where a mountain lion ended up in a shopping mall or in somebody's house. That's just the hunting side of it. But 2,500 individuals went through the testing process to be able to get the permit and have the knowledge to do what they need to do to make an educated decision in the process of attempting to harvest that. But the proponents of this measure act like that 2,500 people went out there and it was 100% success, because as they said in their advertisements, this is guaranteed. These are canned hunts. These are done very inhumanely and with cruelty. Nothing could be further than the truth. Mountain lions are one of the most highly regulated animals that we've got in Colorado, along with bobcats. But in the Western United States, mountain lions are coveted as part of the entire ecosystem. They're not bastardized, they shouldn't be pedestalized, and they darn sure shouldn't be marginalized. But where we're at today is where we need to be. If you expect the experts to be able to manage all wildlife, let them manage all wildlife and quit trying to take it out of the hands of the experts.
Now, speaking of those experts, have Colorado Parks and Wildlife made their positions known on this particular ballot initiative?
According to state law, they can't make a position, and the governor has not allowed them to do so on many different levels. So they are a no position. They're not a neutral. They're not a pro, or they're not a con. They have no position. And so they have been instructed not to engage in legislative issues or ballot issues. And that's the shame, is when you have experts there with the data and the science and what's been collected over the course of the last 125 years since CPW has been there with under different names, their information is not allowed to be shared. You can go get it if you want to seek it out. You can go to their website. You can do a core request. You can look at a lot of different things, but they're not openly available to be able to just turn around and say, here's the facts and here's the data and here's the statistics.
Well, I find that interesting because Marlin, the first gentleman, gets frustrated that Colorado Parks and Wildlife isn't out celebrating the wolf introductions that has taken place. But Dan, you know people that work in the wildlife management space. Maybe CPW can't make official statements, but what are your friends and colleagues and the experts that you know telling you about this initiative?
Well, it's not just about this initiative, guys. It happens to be, when you get too many hands in the cookie jar trying to figure out how to do something, nothing gets done for the benefit of the cause. And I think that the experts of Colorado Parks and Wildlife that have been there for 20 or 30 or 40 years, and the ones that are coming up in the rank and file, they got into a wildlife career because they understand the need for science. They understand that we've got almost 6 million people in the state of Colorado. We've got more visitors in this state than we've ever had in our entire lives. From our last numbers, 84 million annual visitors coming to the state. Colorado Parks and Wildlife is becoming people managers just as what they are wildlife managers. But I could tell you that they want the ability to be able to have the say in what's necessary and how to do it. Because if you get too many chiefs and not enough Indians, you know how that turns out. And that's where some of this is looking like. If you have 5.9 million opinions coming in about how you should manage maybe 4,000 mountain lions or maybe 320,000 elk, how are you going to do anything effectively for the wildlife and the habitat and the resource? And that's where they're going to stand, because they signed up to do the job to benefit Colorado's wildlife for the people and the visitors of Colorado alike.
Talking with Dan Gates, Executive Director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. They're in opposition to Proposition 127. Dan, we've got a few phone calls and texts here. We'd love to get to those. They got questions for you. Zane in Pueblo, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. Good morning,
Morning.
Zane.
Yeah, when I started listening to this about the mountain lions and stuff, I had dug into it a little bit, and they say on average in the state there's 500,000 head of deer every year. And they claim that 190 to 200,000 deer are killed every year by mountain lions. So if they quit hunting them, what's that going to do to the actual deer herd?
Yeah, Dan, what will happen?
It's a good question, but you got to understand the compensatory side of things, that it's not like deer don't breed. So if you do have 500,000, which the numbers are a little less than that, but if you do have 500,000 deer, just for an example, and as an example, if 50% of those are does and they are all bred, and then they turn around and have 1 or 2 fawns, the lions are going to do some incremental damage in different spots. I don't think there's any science out there that'll say that deer are going to become extinct overnight. But if we're really trying to balance and measure the harvest of deer, then we need to be able to balance and measure the harvest of lions. If we're going to balance the harvest of elk, we need to be able to balance the harvest of all predators, including a variety of other factors that go into that. As soon as you start taking away the ability to manage one species that is directly affected or related to other species, how do you not think that the proponents of measures like this then want to turn around and manage those other species through the ballot as well? And I think that those are things that need to be looked at and considered when the general public checks the box this year, is if they want to manage one thing because they say that's the right way, what's going to happen when those other prey species or those other ungulate species come along, big game species, that those other animals don't adversely affect or benefit, the people shouldn't be making those decisions because they don't have the facts and the data to go along from the elk to the deer to the bighorn sheep to the moose down to the mountain lions and wolves and bobcats and everything else.
Zane, a follow-up question?
No, I just want to tell them that I totally agree. But like I said, if you don't kind of control it, it could decimate the elk and the deer herds.
Yeah, I think Zane's got a great point, and thanks for the call, that the unintended consequences of if we say we are taking this predator off the ability to hunt, the predatory species is going to be more populous. That's just how nature works, and more animals means they need to eat more. And that means they're going to impact the deer and the elk species. And again, it's a cascade effect down the ecosystem because those the deer and the elk are also performing. They're eating some of the grasses. They're doing some things. Even, again, we're going to talk about it here on the air. Even their poop, when they're going around, they're wandering around, they're just dropping in the woods. It's a fertilizer. So there's certain things that don't happen later on down, and there are certain other animals that are impacted on the ecosystem as well, because all of a sudden now you have more predators in the environment. And this is the fun part is we've talked here on the Jeff and Bill show, and Dan probably didn't hear us at the time because I'm sure he's not getting up and listening to us every day with his gorgeous beard and stuff. But still, just got to see talking about the beard. I'm so jealous. The idea being that what happens when we introduce the predators, the wolves, into the Colorado population, there have been some adverse effects with their interaction with people, but also interactions with ranchers and their livestock. And what you're seeing is you're seeing a predator being introduced into an ecosystem, and there are negative consequences. Imagine if we had a bunch of wolves and we just kept putting more and more and more. What does that do to the availability of the ranch, the livestock, and everything else? They still have to have more food. They're going to have to spend more time hunting. And the easiest things they're going to find are going to be ranch animals because of how they are kept. The same thing we are going to find with mountain lions. They are going to find the path of least resistance. Predators are very, very efficient in nature. They are not looking for the hardest thing to kill, the most difficult thing to hunt. They are going to take what's available. And sometimes that are the deer and the elk they run across in the wildlife. Sometimes that's going to be a ranch animal, which right now, Dan says, as he outlines, the ranchers are compensated for. But sometimes that's going to be your dog. That's going to be your cat in the neighborhoods because they're going to be looking for the food source. So the idea behind Proposition 127 does create a cascade effect in the environmental system of Colorado that can really come right up to your back door. That's something that I think is missing in the conversation for the people that are advocating for this.
Well, and I would agree 100%. And you have to look at the different dynamics that, a lot of Colorado's population is on the Front Range, and the urban sprawl that we have causes an urban-rural divide on many different levels. But it does that for wildlife as well, and not just on the human side, but the wildlife side. And so wildlife are opportunists. We all see deer and elk and lions and bears in close proximity to where we live, and that's going to become more and more frequent depending on if we expand our territory or if populations continue to grow with a lack of management of those populations. But keep in mind, Ring doorbells that we didn't have 20 years ago, not everybody knew what was going on outside their house. Today they do. 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have cell phones in everybody's pocket to just turn around and pick up and video something at will. People are more cognizant of their surroundings now. And I think that they need to realize just how important it is for them to pay attention to the politics side and the emotional side of what is trying to drive wildlife management and the goal of individual groups and agendas to be able to stop the ability to be able to do that. But they have a chance to do that this November by checking the box in the right direction and say, vote no on these type of issues. And those are the things that we're concerned about, is people being able to make those right decisions on a timely basis on all things considered, not just wildlife, but everything else concerned.
Yeah, Dan Gates, Executive Director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management. You make a wonderful point there about those Ring doorbells. Our listeners have friends or maybe themselves that have shared video of those Ring doorbells and look at the bear going across my front yard. You are that close to the wildlife. And if we have more predators in the ecosystem, those predators are competing for food. And as Dan accurately said, they're opportunistic hunters. If the opportunity for the hunt happens to be your puppy in the backyard, they're going to take the puppy. That's an easy easy kill. That's what you're going to run up against. That's why the idea of not going out there and managing these predator populations in order to balance the ecosystem, that's why it's a fallacy. You're exactly right, Dan.
Dan, I want to ask you about some of these outside groups that are funding this initiative. Can you give our listeners some insight to the special interest groups pushing this?
Yeah, well, Cats Aren't Trophies is the issues committee, and the issues committee for our side is actually Wildlife Deserve Better. And so they can go to wildlifedeservebetter.com if they want more information on the right side of the argument. But Cats Aren't Trophies has been funded by some out-of-state groups, formerly groups that have been run by the HSUS CEO, Wayne Pacelli of the Humane Society of the United States. Now he's got a couple different groups that he's funding, helping to fund this particular measure. The Wild Animal Sanctuary that you probably have seen advertisements on, they're funding a lot of this. And other groups that are sitting around on the periphery waiting to pounce, just like a mountain lion would on a deer or maybe a dog in somebody's yard. They're waiting for the right opportunity to jump on board. But the mentality of this comes from, for the most part, non-resident extremists. The individual that's running the Cats Aren't Trophies campaign, she had actually relocated from Washington after creating havoc there to come here to turn around and do the same thing. And once they gain momentum and they get a little bit of a nose underneath the tent, it's easy to see by the definition in this language, the ballot title itself, that this is not a trophy hunting ban. This is a hunting ban. And a hunting ban can be incorporated into a wide variety of things, especially out of 78 game species. And while mountain lions and bobcats might be on the list here, throw lynx out because we can't harvest those, nor do we want to at any point in time. But the mountain lions and bobcats, you take that out. Why can't you put bighorn sheep or elk or bears or coyotes or mallard ducks into those categories? Because of the statutory definition and the precedent this would set, it allows for people to say, well, we did it with that. We don't want this to be harvested either. And so we are confident we're going to be able to beat this. We're confident that the misnomers and the fallacies and the falsehoods will be brought out from, the facts and the data that's supplied over the course of the next 6 weeks. But we encourage everybody to look up the Colorado Parks and Wildlife website. I mean, it's cpw.state.co.us. Look up the facts and the data from them. They don't have to believe us. Don't believe the opposition. Just look at it from the experts that have been managing our wildlife appropriately over the course of the last 125 years, and specifically mountain lions since 1965.
Someone texted in that bear hunting ballot initiative was banned years ago. Maybe that's Colorado Springs. Now we have bears in highly populated areas in the suburbs. So I don't know if that's connected to your position on this.
It was a ballot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a ballot measure that passed in 1992. There was a lot of fallacies and falsehoods at that point in time as well. Bear populations have expanded extensively.
Yep.
The state is having bear damage complaints and human bear interactions to the point to where now they're trying to do legislation, and now they're trying to do commission rules, and now they're doing ordinances in towns and cities to make the people pay for the bear damage or the trash, cleanup or pickup. There's a lot of components that go into wildlife management that everybody wants to see our wildlife flourish. No one better or more than what hunters do, because they paid into the system historically through taxes and fees and licenses and stuff over the course of the last 125 years, well before the Roosevelt area in the early 1900s. We've done this on the benefit of everybody. It's just that everybody hasn't been schooled or educated or doesn't understand how it's funded, why it's funded. They all want it to be the same way, to have sustainable wildlife populations. It's just that some of us want it for different reasons, and some of us don't want any reasons at all, except for the fact that they want it there, but they don't want to have to pay for it, and they don't want anybody else to use it in the meantime.
Yeah, Dan, it reminds me a lot of the approach to Western lands, that you either treat it as a museum or you treat it as a garden. When you treat it like a museum, you expect people to back off entirely. Well, I think that's contributed to wildfires, drought issues, major problems with Western land in the United States. And now they kind of want to bring the same thing to animals. You can't touch the animals, as opposed to treating it like a garden where you manage it and it actually flourishes better, and everybody gets to have a better experience when you do that. So, Dan Gates, Executive Director for Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, thanks so much for taking the time to educate our listeners on this. They are a no on Proposition 127. I am a no as well.
Me too.
If you are in favor of Proposition 127, give us a call. We'd like to talk to you, or text in and hear your thoughts as well. But Dan, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the opportunity. Aim small, miss small.
There you go.
Hey, that's awesome.
Those outdoor guys, they always have the best jobs, man.
They do. And the best liners, too.
And best beards.
Yeah, I'm so jealous. That's like,
Duck Dynasty style.
I know. I never could get that.
So I didn't shave for about a year. And it was down to about here.
Really?
I didn't cut my hair either. So it was down. I looked like Jesus.
Wow. I see. I've been able to grow the long hair on the head. The rest of it, no. I mean, it was the decades before even you get the little, the goatee, until the sides would connect to the bottom. I just, I can't grow. And it's like, I'm like a 12-year-old boy going, someday I'm going to get into puberty. And it's just awful. Yeah.
My wife likes the fact that it hides part of my face.
I'm going to leave that one there. I'm not going to follow up on that one.
Just kidding. No, but she does love the beard, which is why I have it. So, give us a call. Want you to be a part of the conversation. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Look, if you're like me, you know that living in Colorado means dealing with unpredictable weather, hail, snow, heavy winds, you name it, we got it. That's why you need a roofing company you can trust, and that's Colorado's Best Roofing. They're local, family-owned, and have served the Denver area for over 12 years. They understand our unique climate and know how to build a roof that lasts. Whether you need a repair after a storm or a whole new roof, Colorado's Best Roofing has got you covered. And here's what I really love. They offer a free, no-obligation inspection. They'll come out, take a look, give you an honest assessment. No pressure, no gimmicks, just straight talk from the pros. Even if you've got just a small thing you got to fix on your roof, or if you need the whole roof replaced, they do it all. Plus, they work with your insurance company to make sure you get the coverage you deserve. So don't wait until the next big storm hits. Give Colorado's Best Roofing a call today at 303-797-7663 or visit them at roofingcolorado.com. That's 303-797-7663 or roofingcolorado.com. Trust the best. Colorado's Best Roofing. Steve was in here, I think last week. Just a great guy. His business is dedicated to the values that this radio station shares, and this is a ministry for him. He wants to give back to the community. So a good guy to use for your roofing.
Steve's
needs.
fantastic, because what he talked about for us is that he is going to make sure that it is about quality when he's working on your house rather than the quantity. He's going to make sure he handles everything that goes on with your insurance company. That's not a headache you need to deal with. He knows how to manage them. But most importantly, he understands Colorado. He's been here long enough. He's not one of those fly-by-night guys. He's going to make sure you get the right shingles, the right treatment for your roof, and he's going to make sure it doesn't leak. Plus, when you're spending your money with Colorado's Best Roofing, that money stays right here in Colorado. So he goes out and he pays the people that are working for him, and they go and buy things in our community. So by just making the simple call to Colorado's Best Roofing, you create an economic ripple throughout our community that can help everybody. That's why we always encourage that you buy local, you shop local, and you hang here with Jeff and Bill, and we're going to help you do that. And we appreciate you supporting our advertisers.
Give us a call. We'll continue the conversation. You're listening to Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Wyo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
The scientific director for the company that owned the Titan submersible that imploded last year while on its way to the Titanic wreckage testified that the sub had malfunctioned just prior to the fatal dive. Appearing before a U.S. Coast Guard panel this week, Stephen Ross told the board about a platform issue the experimental submersible experienced back in June of 2023, just days before it imploded on its way to the Titanic site. The malfunction caused passengers on board the submersible to tumble about, and it took an hour to get them out of the water. Ross says the submersible pilot, OceanGate co-founder Stockton Rush, crashed into bulkheading during the malfunction. A major victory coming in for religious freedom in Oregon after a church fought back against the city of Brookings for trying to restrict their ministry. Michael Harrington has more.
The city of Brookings will pay $400,000 in legal fees and has agreed to stop trying to restrict St. Timothy's Episcopal Church from ministering to the homeless. City officials had tried to limit the church to providing food and water to homeless people just 2 days of the week. Pastor Bernie Lindley tells Oregon Public Broadcasting, quote, "It certainly didn't have to come to this, but we had to stand up for our religious freedoms." Michael Harrington, SRN News.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Ohio, Salem News Channel.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
Their song on the Friday.
This is literally my anthem on a Friday. I love it.
It's so hard for me to not dance in the studio. I'm trying to be okay in front of the
so
camera.
Hard for me not to crack a cold Coors Light.
Oh, yeah.
Just chill out with my buddies on my ranch.
This is how different our show is. You and I have a song. This one right here. This is awesome. And this is the Jeff and Bill Friday anthem. This is wonderful.
It is great. Great conversation. We just wrapped up with Dan Gates, Proposition 127, which is the prohibition on hunting. Now, I've got to see. He talked about a language change. I got to get that updated. I'm going to come up with my ballot initiative tomorrow. I'm filling in for Pete. So we'll talk about all 14 ballot initiatives. And plus, we got some great guests coming up tomorrow. So stick with me tomorrow as I fill in for Peter Boyles, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. following John Caldera. Man, we got the best.
That'll be fun.
We got the best commentators on this.
Yeah,
show.
we do.
Charlie Kirk after this, Cal Thomas, Sebastian Gorka, Dennis Prager.
And
it's fun.
We're also live and local on the weekends many times, unlike some of the other things in town. So just saying. Yeah, when everybody else is out there giving you the canned pre-recorded stuff, we got some stuff, especially Saturday morning. Best lineup on Saturday morning in town. So everybody else is doing silly things. We're not. Yeah, we're still talking to you. And Jeff's going to be here with you tomorrow. I've got to be talking to other people about music, which is going to be fun. But yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. I'm doing rock tomorrow. It's going to be so much fun.
I got no text messages of anybody supporting Proposition 127.
Yeah, I can't figure out. The thing for me is I have a hard time, and I would love to hear from a texter or a caller that talks about why, they support the proposition. And I understand the nature side of it about I don't want to kill the animals, I don't want to hunt, things like that. But for me, it's about the balance inside the ecosystem. And I'm a fan of reptiles, and I understand intimately what happens when certain species overtake an ecosystem because there aren't checks, and that can be either predators or prey. Both can have some really, really bad consequences if either ones get out of control, and it is that balance. And what CPW has been able to do, according to our guest Dan Gates that was just with us, they're doing a remarkable job of balancing the predator and prey relationship between mountain lions and prey like deers and elk and other things. And if we allow more, and this is not about, again, you may not like the idea of hunting mountain lions, but this means more mountain lions in our communities. Right. If that's what you want, I'm curious to hear why. What's the reason behind it? Why do you want more mountain lions?
Yeah, I think the only argument they have, and you see this in like Disney videos, I'm thinking Beauty and the Beast and Gaston, right? The evil people that put animal heads on walls, they must be stopped. Those poor stuffed animals. Stuffed in not the plush type way, but stuffed and put on a wall, and they make you look terrible. And so you're absolutely, Bill, gonna end up with voters in Highlands Ranch and Boulder that are like, but I don't want to see them up on a wall.
Yeah, and the idea, and I think maybe the idea of trophy, maybe that's part of the tag too, that it's a trophy hunter, but there's a reason for that.
All right. When we return, you choose the news. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
We had such a fun morning this morning. The calls were just piling in.
Yeah,
we couldn't get to You Choose the News until now. Billy, give the people what they want.
Yes, luckily those in charge have not arrived. Evidently, they are stuck in traffic this morning, so we will take advantage of it being unsupervised. It is what we call the loser edition of You Choose the News.
You are one pathetic loser.
Junior!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
It's a losers club. Bunch of losers. You're such a loser. You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, it's the stories that both Jeff and Blake felt were unworthy of our attention earlier this week during this silly fake radio news game show that we call You Choose the News. But now they are back for a second shot at glory. Alrighty, Mr. Hunt, Mr. Olson, here are your choices. Headline number 1, love in the air. Headline number 2, just being neighborly. Headline number 3, not Drizel, but Intellion. And headline number 4, you can't go on thinking nothing's wrong.
Love is in the air.
Yes, love is in the air. Here we are going to meet Michelle Kobke. She is a warehouse worker from Germany that is 36 years old. And she said, finally, it's been a long time, but the love of her life, the relationship has ended. She thinks it's time for her to move on. She says that, darling, we've been together for so long, but I need to go and see other people, or maybe just see other planes, because Michelle has been in a 9-year-long romantic relationship with a Boeing 737-800 airplane. Yes, that is for real.
I thought maybe she was the lady that married herself and got divorced from herself. Did you see that too?
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, see, now Michelle.
Plane?
Yes, Michelle has been diagnosed with objectophilia. It's a condition in which individuals form a complex emotional and even romantic relationship.
Hey, love is love, man.
Yeah, with inanimate objects. Don't you judge her love. Now, she says she's normal, admittedly. At first, she thought it was crazy, but she's found out that, yeah, she's an objectophile, so she falls in love with inanimate objects. And she called this one specific plane, not all the 737s, just this one that was darling. She said it was the most beautifully built. It was the most attractive plane she'd ever seen. What really caught her art? When I touch his wings, I immediately get sweaty. My palms get excited. Just the curves. It goes on from here. But still, she was in love with the plane, and now she is going on to see other planes, or maybe she's going to branch out and see a helicopter. But we'll see what happens. Can't tell you. Alrighty, Blake Olson, your choice, sir. Just being neighborly, not Drizel, but Intellion, or you can't go on thinking nothing's wrong.
Just being neighborly.
Yeah, just being neighborly. We're going to Vacaville, California for this one. A California man recently noticed something was not quite right with his utility bill. Ken Wilson has been living in this particular apartment complex for nigh on 18 years now. But recently, he has been doing some great things. His energy bill got too high, so he's been cutting back. He's been keeping the lights off. He's been cutting back on his air conditioner, but the bill keeps going up. He took some more steps. Bill kept going up. So he finally contacted the public service company, and they said, oh, yeah, sorry, your unit is connected to apartment 91, not 90. You've been paying for 18 years for the guy next to you. Their energy. So yes,
That's horrible.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
yeah. Now he said when he was contacted for the interview, no, they haven't changed it yet because that's how the government works.
Oh, boy,
yeah,
got
exactly.
that right.
Final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt. Not Drizel, but Intellion, or you can't go on thinking nothing's wrong.
I can't even say what you first said, so you can't go on.
Well, see, you can't go on thinking's nothing wrong, but now who's going to drive you home tonight? Not famous Skong by the Cars, and that's what we're talking about. Recently, police in Ohio discovered an 8-year-old girl who was reported missing early Sunday morning. Bedford police then started getting other calls saying, wait, we think there's a small child in a car driving. What happened was this 8-year-old woke up early before the rest of the family. She decided, I got to go to Target. I got to get me some shopping done. So she grabbed the car keys, got behind the wheel of the car, and drove not 1, not 5, not 10, not 15, 25 minutes away to Target and made it all the way to the parking lot. Here's the thing. She didn't hit anything. She was somewhat of a responsible driver. But yes, 25 minutes in the car on her own at 8.
Wow.
She drives better than some of my kids. I'm just saying.
I was gonna say,
yes.
The most of drivers on Colorado
Is that
streets.
crazy?
Wow.
I know. That's it. That's the end of You Choose the News. Thanks for playing along, guys. Back to you.
All right, when we return, Jeff Hildebrandt's going to be with us. He's got some cowboy poetry, and then we're talking to some biker gangs that are coming to Aurora, but not for what you think. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. We got to try that one morning.
I have
her.
like a visceral response.
I know. I can see it. What it did, I could see it in your face. That's why we got to do it one day.
Oh, man. You know, here's what we should do.
Yeah.
We should do a Kamala cackle off.
Yes, we should. It's a good idea. It's a really
good
idea.
With listeners that call in, and the very best cackle will win a prize from 710K in US.
That's great.
Now, is the best cackle like the most unnerving?
Yeah.
Like nails on a chalkboard, or is it the one that most represents Kamala's cackle?
Let's think about that, my friend. This is what we should do. I know you're on for Peter Boyles tomorrow morning starting at 9 following John Caldera. You and I should chat offline during the weekend, and let's see. And I'll have to do this, and maybe that's next Friday. Maybe it's a week from today. Everybody gets a week to warm up.
Yes.
And we go, raid the prize closet and see what they have that they'll let us take. And let's see
Jeff
what we can
and
figure
Bill
out.
Kamala cackle off.
Yeah, let's see what we can do. Maybe next
It
Friday.
almost sounds dirty.
It does. It really does. and if anybody asks, blame me. But I think I think we got something here, my friend. I think we got something. Let's see what we do next Friday. This is great.
Well, good morning. It's 9:01 on this Friday, September 20th. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Billy Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. Woke up in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. We are Denver's talk leader. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Coming up now, news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Oh, good morning. I love that idea of the cackle off. I think that's great.
You know, you have to give us yours, so you're gonna have to. I'm just saying, you got a week. You got a week, my friend, to practice.
Oh man, I think it needs to be the most annoying wins. It doesn't, because it's going to be impossible to sound like her. Maybe not.
There's that one lady on social media that has got her laugh down perfectly. She's amazing. But yeah,
is that right?
But there is not a far gap between the most annoying and the one that best represents Kamala.
You know, if we can find just enough stuff in the prize closet, again, I'm going to have to pick the lock. But still, if we can find the right stuff, I think we do the most, like the most grading, and then you do the one that is like the most representative, like the closest one to her, and then the one that is the most fun and most silly. Maybe we can get two prizes out of it. But
that's
again,
true. That's
I don't know. They don't let me in the closet very often, so I'm going to see what happens.
It'd be good. I think you should just contact Oprah and she'll get you some prizes.
There we go.
62 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 86 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story: jury deliberations expected to begin today in the trial of Ahmad Alyssa, the man charged in the deadly mass shooting at the Boulder King Supers. Alyssa faces numerous charges, accusing him of shooting and killing 10 people at the grocery store on Table Mesa Drive. He is pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Jurors are scheduled to start deliberating after closing arguments. Kamala Khan on with Oprah last night. We all know that she and the left want to take away Americans' guns. But once again, she said that she has a gun and she'll use it.
At the convention, when you said you have guns. No, at the debate.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
I don't believe her. I don't believe she has a gun and she wouldn't use it.
Look, I went to college just down the street from Oprah Winfrey's massive estate. Ran by it. A cross-country team would run by it. Yep. Beautiful college in Montecito, California. Nobody ever tried to run onto Oprah's estate because you would get shot.
Yes,
so Oprah may not
amazing.
own a gun, but the people standing outside her estate sure do.
Instead of the Secret Service covering Kamala.
Yeah, that's right. Secret Service for Kamala, and Oprah has like 50 people. You know.
She is guarded
protecting her.
like it's a castle. I mean, she's this whole idea of laughing. You don't.
Hey, there
wasn't
wasn't a wall there, was there?
Big
around
wall.
her house? No way.
Big wall.
No way.
So much so,
work.
so
No
much so
way.
that the college students never ever tried to even set
Yeah.
foot on her property.
You guys should have knocked on the big gate. Was there a big gate by
There
the
was
wall?
a very big gate. There was
And you
people
knocked
managing
on it
that
like
gate.
the old castle.
Yeah, right. A moat with alligators. You lesser people need to stay off my estate.
They crack me up. All right, they actually sweep the area where Kamala visits with the Secret Service, by the way. Unlike some politicians, they don't worry about that. Here's some more from this incredible leader who, as border czar, just let in at least 15 million illegals on the southern border.
We take pride in the privilege of being American. And this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans, by character, are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible.
Yes.
We believe in what can be.
Yes.
And we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being.
God, she's amazing. You know what? Forget it. Forget everything I've said about her. I'm convinced.
You're all in now, huh?
She has persuaded
Look,
me.
there are so many, particularly the housewives of Highlands Ranch that and Boulder County that will listen to that and go,
you know,
it's right here. I have never connected with a leader the way I've connected with that. Yeah, they're half drunk in the middle of the day, but look, that is the uninformed, totally emotional leader that can't figure out why everything's more expensive and everything stinks in this state.
Yes.
And they just vote purely on feeling, and they listen to Kamala spew that and go, that is going to make our country great.
No doubt. You know, she's actually really smart and she cares about me. Hey, by the way, all those drunk people that you were talking about, evidently Billy knows where they go at happy hour, right?
Oh, yes.
I didn't know you were an expert on that, Billy. You know exactly where they go.
Yes, I know exactly where they go. And yes, I have scars to prove it. I'm just saying.
Happy hour at 10:30. You saw I haven't gotten that video yet, but the lady that was driving drunk at 10 in the morning in Highlands Ranch with two kids in the back of her car.
Are you kidding me?
She's the type of person that's like, Kamala.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna pull back the curtain here a little bit here. This is OG radio stories. Now, this is not my personal story, but a good friend of ours, friend of the show, I'm not going to out them right now, knew a coworker that needed to get their drink on very early in the morning. They worked a morning show. Okay, they would show up to work every day with a briefcase. They had personally modified this briefcase with styrofoam on the inside that it could hold most of a 12-pack, and would start working
an entire
12-pack and would start working through it during the show.
Wow.
Yes.
With like a tube?
Yes.
How would you drink? You just pull up a beer?
No, the idea is it would pop it open, pull it out, and there we go, and pour it into another glass, and let's go. Yeah, because as long as you're not walking around with a can, no one cares at that point. And the can goes back into and the can goes right back into the briefcase.
Amazing,
Close the briefcase.
Man.
You walk your empties out. Nobody knows.
How was the show? Was it good?
Here's the thing. At the time, one of the top-rated shows in Denver. If I said the talent name, yes, you would. In fact, okay, this is a side story. This same talent, after the show, they were in a promotions meeting. The station was going to bring in the San Diego Chicken at the time was coming in and going to be doing an appearance with the station. From the back of, this person's already several beers into the day during a promotion meeting right around 10 o'clock in the morning. And you hear in the back going, chicken? Radio? I don't get it. Chicken? And for the rest of the promotions meeting, even when the topic passed, you would just hear, chicken. Chicken? You're stuck on that. So I'm just saying. Yeah, there's some people. Yeah, and there may have also been another short-term FM jock here in town that I know that because he had to get stoned before the show, hooked up his bong to the inside of his car that he could cover with a panel, but he had a tube so he could smoke and light while he's driving on the way to the station.
What?
I know. He did modifications to his automobile in order to fulfill his addiction. Yeah, I know. Imagine if he would have put that talent somewhere else.
I was just about to say.
Exactly.
Well, we are getting text messages, the bread man. Hey, stop disparaging Highland Ranch. I live there. And in our block, we hunt elk. Oh, but okay. You're right.
It's okay.
The soccer moms are bad. The only reason I disparage Highlands Ranch is because you have gone 20 points in 10 years from supporting Mitt Romney to Heidi Ganahl barely winning it. And it's because all the suburbanites are going, well, the libs, I guess, aren't that bad.
People say I got a drinking problem.
Hey, it's no problem. I know exactly where to go. I know exactly how to do it.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
That's all. Okay. I'm
should do the
sorry.
news.
That was fun taking that.
That was so much fun.
That was so. I got to find out the specifics on that soon.
5442 just texted Highlands Ranch housewives half drunk by midday. Jeff, you just lost half your listeners.
It's okay. They're too drunk to change the channel. Don't worry about it.
All right, with just 46 days to go in the election, early voting is getting underway in 3 states today. Voters in Minnesota, South Dakota, Virginia are now able to cast their ballots. Harris will hold rallies in the 2 key swing states of Georgia and Wisconsin. Meanwhile, Trump will attend a fundraiser in Miami. Dan Gates, Executive Director, Coloradans for Responsible Wildlife Management, discussing a measure on the ballot, Proposition 127, ballot box biology. You have to know your history. If I could find this one, and I just lost it again. The computer just dropped on me. So anyway, you heard that last hour, and Dan Gates was awesome. All right, college football tomorrow. CU at Baylor, UTEP at CSU, Wyoming at North Texas, UNC at Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches, Texas. 59 in Parker, 60 in Erie, 62 in Denver. Have a great weekend. Blake Olson. Wait, let me just say this first. Jeff and Billy continue on this Friday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a warm and very nice late summer day. High temperatures about 7 to 10 degrees above average, near 90, mid-50s tonight. Cooler fall-like weather starts to move in for the last official day of summer this Saturday. 60s to 70s, showers and thunderstorms late, light to moderate rain likely. Highs 50s to 60s with rain Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or even income for life. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, we need to bring it back down to an appropriate level, Bill. We know it's Friday. We know it's the final hour. We know those half-drunk suburban moms and Highlands Ranch are listening.
Yeah, and again, it's always my fault. It's like the story of high school and college and everything else. It's always going to be my fault. Yes, I will be the bad influence. Absolutely, I am. 110%, but it's fun.
So the reason I love this guy is because he speaks truth to power, which is just so needed in this culture. He's the official 710 poet laureate, a Western cowboy poet bringing truth to the airwaves of Denver, Colorado, and across the nation on YouTube, X, and Rumble. Jeff Hildebrandt is in studio with us for his regular Friday poetry. Jeff, I think we're going to call this Rhyme Time with Jeff. Rhyme time. Rhyme time.
Rhyme.
I like this.
Yeah. Before we get started.
Yes, sir.
I was a newsman for a lot of years, and I was just notified based upon a conversation that you two were trying to have
Oh no.
That
Uh-oh.
Because of your contest idea that you talked about, the NFL has started a post-game feature for the best defensive tackle of the day.
Yes.
And it's going to be called a Kamala tackle cackle.
That's good. Oh, that's wonderful.
The Kamala cackle tackle.
Yes, that's good.
Look forward to seeing that sometime later in the season.
So when you make the tackle, you need to stand up and in your celebration cackle, right? Yes.
That's wonderful.
It is like an end zone dance.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what do you have for us this week,
Well,
Mr. Hildebrandt?
I have some bad luck. Honestly, it's hard for me to pass this on, but it's something that must be said. It's about a couple. They sit together holding hands as the sun sets past the peaks. The moments pass in silence, then through his tears he speaks. You've stuck with me through bad times. You were there when I got fired. When we lost the house, you didn't leave. Despite what has transpired, you've always been right by my side, slogging through the mire and muck. And only now I realize you really are bad luck.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That is a good one. That's a good zinger.
That's really good.
Flips it right on there.
Yeah, my wife's going to read that to me.
That was a great one.
Oh, that's
Okay.
fantastic.
Oh, shall we do another?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How many do we
absolutely.
have today?
Oh, well, I've got a whole stack.
Fantastic.
But
Well, and I've got a book.
those are pancakes. We'll get rid of those later.
I got Riding for the Boss and the Brand by Jeff
Yeah,
Hildebrandt.
Yeah.
I've been working my way through the first one. That's good. It's really good. Writing for the Boss is good.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This is from a different one. It's from a book called A View from the Pew, available on Amazon. We had Sunday at my church. We had an interesting experience. We had a guy from, it's called Riding High Ministries.
I was in that service.
Oh, were you? You saw that?
I saw I
Okay.
was in the morning service. The 9
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock, and then they
And
did
then
11.
They had 11.
Yeah, I did. I was in the 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Were you in that one, or you the
I
11?
was in both. I
Oh,
was,
were you?
I was actually working both services.
Very good. You an usher?
Well, I'm all kinds of things. I carry a shovel. Okay, they have me
Oh.
follow the horse.
But at least you're in show business.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So this guy, we had on the stage a round pen built, and we had 33 tons of dirt brought in and put on the stage for the horses. Anyway, it reminded me of this poem that I had written years ago. For those who've never trained a horse, here's something you should know. It's about what's called the round pen. It's where wild horses go to learn to follow signals through a tender teaching touch. But horses in the round pen can only learn so much. Before too long, the cowboy needs to let the pony out so it can use what it's been taught. That's what training's all about. Like ponies, we can study until the cows come home in the safety of our round pen. But really, we should roam outside our Bible study groups or the safety of our pews, where we can make a difference when we share our Lord's good news. God tells us we should go and do, so we should get a grip. Security is not the round pen, it's in relationship. We know that God is faithful, and with him, we'll succeed. So let's all leave our round pens with Jesus in the lead.
Ooh,
Beautiful. That is
beautiful.
great. So what happened during this training is that the guy that was giving the message would get a horse he'd never seen before.
Right.
And was not trained, never ridden before.
Right.
And so they put him in this pen. And then throughout the course of the message, in 1 hour, he goes and gets the horse to get comfortable with him. oftentimes these are abused animals that that have some underlying issue, and he weaves that into his message as well. And then within about an hour, he has won over the horse. He is now riding the horse with no saddle.
Wow.
And it's taking him around, and you see a joy come out of the horse. You see a stability come out of the horse and love, and they've built this bond. And it's really about how God comes into our lives, takes the brokenness, takes the pain, and you build that relationship, and God can take you, just as your poem talks about, takes you on this great adventure as a result.
And then you have to get outside the pen.
Yes.
And
Right.
you have the chance to go out there and do everything else. And I think that's what was so cool about the message that Jeff shared with us, was the idea of letting Jesus be the lead, but also making sure that you go outside of your controlled environment in your pen. It is so easy for everyone to talk about their religion and to celebrate our shared faith when you're in the confines of the church or the congregation. It is more complex. It's more difficult when you're outside with the rest of the secular world. But that also is the time in which you have, like Jeff outlines, the time in which you have the ability to show your best, to be your best, and to show what that round pen has done to you and the changes it has made to you. It is not just you going out there and evangelizing. It is also your day-to-day actions. How do you interact with your neighbors? How do you interact with the people at the store? And as hard as it is for me, how do you interact with the traffic in front of you? Because that's the part that sometimes for me is so difficult. The things I want to say that come out of my mouth are nothing that I can say in church. But yeah, that's remarkable. It's amazing.
Well, I heard from, like I said, I worked both services as a volunteer, and I heard from people as they left both services how amazing it was. And being in both services, I know that he used different horses for each service, 2 unbroken horses. And this guy is what's called a horse whisperer. You may remember the Redford movie.
Yep.
And that's the way I've seen it done in other events around the country, but I've never seen it done the way he does. Both horses had different personalities. They reacted differently to what he did, and the message changed depending on how the horse reacted.
Yep.
So it wasn't just the same message every time.
Well, I'll give you an example. The first one that I saw, the horse wouldn't move.
Right.
It was like petrified.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't even get it to step. By the end, he was walking it around and doing great with her. But he said that was a real challenge, because most of the time the horses want to fight or push back. Or she was like, I'll just let you do whatever.
Yeah.
And he had to overcome that to win her.
Right. And the second horse was a little bit different because it would move.
Yeah.
It would back up. It would follow him. Now, the interesting thing that I've always thought about horse whisperers is that they can be around a horse and they can turn their back on the horse and walk away, and the horse will follow them, which is unbelievable.
Can't get anybody to follow me. I hardly get anybody to follow me on X.
You know,
I'm alone on a horse.
and my wife turns her back and walks away. But be that as it may, at any rate, it's not breaking a horse, it's training a horse. And so it's not like nothing against rodeo, but it's completely different than having to saddle break a horse.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
It was fascinating. And
that's called Riding High Ministries, right?
Riding High Ministries.
Riding High
And
Ministries.
they're
Very
from
cool.
out of state.
Yeah, I think Ohio.
We had calls when people heard about this coming. There were calls from Kansas, from Oklahoma, Utah, Nebraska, people calling the church,
jam-packed,
wondering if they could come in.
Yep.
Wow.
And I know for a fact there was some folks from Nebraska who drove down that morning to be there in time for the service.
Yeah, it was packed.
So
it was a lot of fun.
Special. That's
was
really
a
special.
great message. So thank you guys.
So you got one more poem? Do you have any more? Are we done?
Well, if you read something, I'll find another one.
Okay, I'll tap dance for us for a second. It's interesting about the the idea of doing that with the horses and how they approach them, because I mean, you know, that I keep reptiles at home, and especially snakes, and you have to approach them the same way. It's not an aggressive manner, but it is that idea of almost being that reptile whisperer, of understanding what their body language is doing and understanding how they react to you, and building that stronger bond, because you're much larger than they are, you're scary, and their first thing is defensive. And it takes a while to create that relationship. But once you do, it is, again, remarkable to watch, because I know, again, it's not horses, not as cool as horses. But of the snakes that I have at home, I can go over to the enclosures and they won't respond this way to the other people in my family, but they hear my voice. They come out, they'll come right up to the edge of the tank. I can take the lids off, or I can open up the front because I've got a couple of front enclosure openings, and they'll come right out onto my arm. They have no fear. They're really excited. And I have one particular corn snake who's bright yellow. And anytime I'm near the enclosure, she is begging to get out, because she knows that it's an interaction. She knows that it's safe. She knows it's handling, and she responds that way. But you never would find that response inside of the wild. But it's that time. It's that, you know,
that
patience.
Is cool.
Yeah. And bringing it around. It's kind of cool.
Oh, you're the snake whisperer.
and we could talk about that, because snakes only have inner ears, so it has to be lower tones. So when you talk to the snakes, I actually lower my voice. Yeah, because they have to. They won't resonate if you're going too high. Yeah, they will hear the lower tones. Yeah, because if in the wild, what you hear, the danger comes from lower tones. The danger will come from animals and predators. They create the lower tones and growl when running around the ground. Yeah.
And did we talk about how more mountain lions will result in more snake deaths? Unbelievable. All right, let's go to Jeff Hill. I think he has one more for us.
All right, one more. Found another one. Up in Golden, Colorado, there's a slightly Old West vibe. I've noticed it on weekends when lots of folks imbibe in the icy cold elixir made from Rocky Mountain streams. It lubricates loquaciousness and clarifies their dreams. You'll see cowboy hats and business suits, mini skirts, and hand-tooled boots. Camera-toting tourists walking up and down the street marvel at the friendliness of locals that they meet. And early in the evening, the elixir has more power, as if this place invented what is known as happy hour. Laughter just erupts from folks at every little joke. Meanwhile, up in Boulder, all good sense goes up in smoke.
Oh, we all been there at those parties.
That is great. I love the Coors family. I might commission you, Jeff, to write a poem for them. Being up there in Golden, that reminds me of how great that community is.
Oh, yeah.
That is a fun one. Thank you so much, Jeff Hildebrandt, the 710 KNUS Cowboy Poet Laureate, joining us on Fridays, providing a little entertainment to you to get you ready for the weekend. Jeff, thanks so much for being on our Rhyme Time.
I'm not quite as entertaining as Blake Olson.
Well, I'm not going to say that on there. I can't. Every once in a while, it's just for the inside. I'm sorry. I can't say that on the air. I'm getting in so much trouble.
So when we return, we're going to talk to some biker gangs coming to Aurora.
Yeah, I'm asking them
to
please not beat me up.
To do? We'll get you some insight on that. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The scientific director for the company that owned the Titan submersible that imploded last year while on its way to the Titanic wreckage testified that the sub had malfunctioned just prior to the fatal dive. Appearing before a U.S. Coast Guard panel this week, Stephen Ross told the board about a platform issue the experimental submersible experienced back in June of 2023, just days before it imploded on its way to the Titanic site. The malfunction caused passengers on board the submersible to tumble about, and it took an hour to get them out of the water. Ross says the submersible pilot, OceanGate co-founder Stockton Rush, crashed into bulkheading during the malfunction. A major victory coming in for religious freedom in Oregon after a church fought back against the city of Brookings for trying to restrict their ministry. Michael Harrington has more.
The city of Brookings will pay $400,000 in legal fees and has agreed to stop trying to restrict St. Timothy's Episcopal Church from ministering to the homeless. City officials had tried to limit the church to providing food and water to homeless people just 2 days of the week. Pastor Bernie Lindley tells Oregon Public Broadcasting, quote, "It certainly didn't have to come to this, but we had to stand up for our religious freedoms." Michael Harrington, SRN News.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
What if this sound actually made you smile, giving you a chance to win gas and groceries for a year? It's the $13,000 gas and grocery giveaway. The grand prize winner gets $10,000 in gas and grocery gift cards. 2 first prize winners get $1,000 in gift cards. And 2 second prize winners get $500 in gift cards.
Presented by Branch Planning. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. The $13,000 gas and groceries giveaway. Enter today at 710knus.com.
No problem.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill show. Billy, there's some unique people on the line here.
Yes,
huh?
we do. Yes, in fact, one of them I was just dealing with it. Sorry, I cut the microphone there early because one of them just had to deal with something legal wise because he's a lawyer. Yes, a biker lawyer is going to come on the air with us. But first, we are going to talk to David Devereaux. We're going to call him Double D, which again, I feel really bad saying that because I'm not cool enough to be able to call a biker by his cool name. But he's part of the National Council of Motorcycle Clubs. The reason that Dave is coming on with us today is because you might have heard a rumor. There was something that hit social media about a bunch of biker gangs coming to town to lay down the law. There was a thing on social media that made the rounds that in Aurora this weekend, biker gangs, the Hells Angels and Sons of Silence and everybody were showing up and they were going to teach the Venezuelan gangs. Fight. Yes, they're going to teach the Venezuelan gangs what for. Now, the issue is you are going to see a ton of motorcycles in and around Aurora, but they're not here to kick any ass. They're actually here for the National Council of Motorcycle Clubs meeting. It has been scheduled for quite some time in Aurora. This has been planned, but Dave is going to be hosting a press conference later today, along with friend Wade, who is going to be joining us in a moment as soon as he wraps up some other legal stuff, and talk about how, that they're not here to fight you or create any chaos or anything else. So, David, Double D, welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show, KNUS. How you doing this morning?
Well, I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, man. So talk to us about the social media post. How did you hear about it? What was going on and what did it say? And how does it causing some problems for, what could cause problems for the National Council of Motorcycle Clubs meeting this weekend?
Well, I don't think it's really caused any visible problems as of yet, but the irony or the coincidence that we're having our semi-annual meeting in Aurora, and like you said, planned months ago, following the social media post that just absolutely went viral, creates some potential concerns. And we want to ensure the citizens of Aurora and law enforcement entities of Aurora that the likely noticeable presence of motorcycle clubs from around the country this weekend has absolutely nothing to do with this recent viral post. Like you said, claiming that motorcycle clubs are headed to Aurora, Colorado to confront illegal immigrants or Venezuelan gangs. Most people, I hope, realize that these claims are a hoax. They're completely ridiculous. Our community has endured decades of law enforcement profiling and discrimination at the hands of law enforcement. And this is largely due to the false and negative stereotypes about motorcycle clubs and their members.
You guys don't carry chains and push over other bikes when you come up on another biker gang and get in fights?
And steal their girlfriends.
Steal their girlfriends, yeah.
We actually prefer not to call ourselves motorcycle gangs because we're not gangs. We're motorcycle clubs. That's not happening. We're here to peacefully assemble, to assert our First Amendment rights to gather, and we're solely focused on the legislative, political, and constitutional interests of our community. The National Council of Clubs doesn't speak for individual motorcycle clubs. We speak for the culture, and we stand up for the culture nationwide.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Wade Eldridge, spokesperson and lawyer with the National Council for Clubs, joining Jeff and Bill live as well. And the reason we're bringing this to the airwaves because there have been some social media posts concerned about, oh my gosh, biker gangs are coming to Aurora in order to lay down the law, and there's going to be a rumble happening. But that's not true at all. You are going to see a lot of motorcycles in and around the Aurora community, but they're here for a national conference that's been scheduled for months and months and months. And what we're trying to do is let you know that nobody's in danger, no safety issues. You don't have to pick up your phone and worry about seeing a lot of these motorcycles. But if you do see them out and about, give them a wave, say hi, take care of them on the road. And if you get a chance to, when they've pulled up somewhere, talk to them about it, ask them where they're from, what they're doing. So, Wade, welcome to the program this morning. Really appreciate you. Now, talk to us about the social media post and how you got involved being the lawyer as far as being concerned about what could happen if someone takes these social media posts the wrong way.
Well, I don't know. People get twisted. They have this image of what motorcyclists are, and I think a lot of times they tend to act on their assumptions and their preconceptions rather than the truth. So I'm just the lawyer. Mr. Devereaux is the spokesman, and I think he's doing a great job of it.
All right. Now, okay. Now we're going to do this. So now we know the motorcycle clubs. Okay, National Council of Meetings is going to. A National Council of Club meeting is going to happen this weekend here in Aurora.
What do you do at that?
Yeah. What are you guys going to do?
Well, we're going to have a series of presentations where people from all over the country gather to share their knowledge base and the things that they've learned about the issues of motorcycle profiling and discrimination against motorcycle clubs. We're going to have a presentation.
Oh, no, we're losing you, Dave.
Excuse me?
Oh, we lost you there for a second. You said we're going to have a presentation, and then we lost all the words after that. So your presentation on?
Yeah, we're going to have a series of presentations on constitutional issues that impact motorcycle clubs, centered around motorcycle profiling and discrimination. So there'll be a presentation on equal access to public accommodations for motorcycle clubs. There'll be a presentation on new developments in the First Amendment as it relates to motorcycle clubs. Like I said, strictly focused on the legislative, political, and constitutional issues that relate to motorcycle clubs. And actually, if you sat in our meetings, you would be underwhelmed. You would be like, okay, this stereotype is so obviously not true. These people are talking about how to pass laws at the federal and state level. They're talking about the First Amendment. They're talking about critical issues that impact our culture that unfortunately have been impacted through this negative stereotype. So we're essentially teaching each other how to deal with the issue of profiling and discrimination.
Yeah, does that mostly come from law enforcement, or does it come from community leaders, elected officials, little church ladies?
Well, I don't spend a lot of time talking to church ladies, I guess. I don't know what they think, but yeah, it primarily is at the hands of law enforcement. We've endured decades of discrimination and decades of motorcycle profiling incidents based on this stereotype, which law enforcement either believes or uses to justify harassing us, essentially.
Wow. I spoke one time. I'm probably the only guy in America, and I think I can claim this, that worked for Mitt Romney and has spoken at a Bikers for Trump rally. And what I found interesting, because I'm not a motorcyclist, I don't hang around with bikers. So I went there to speak and had a great time, a lot of fun. There was like an entire motorcycle gang made up of sober motorcycle club. I guess it wasn't a gang, it was a club. You guys don't say gang, but it was a club. It was a bikers club for sober motorcyclists. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, there is a club. There's several motorcyclists. Go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead, Brad. Good.
I was going to say, for example, there's a club called the Sober Souls. You know.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different genres of motorcycle clubs. There are motorcycle clubs that are centered around veterans. There are motorcycle clubs that are centered around Christianity. There are motorcycle clubs that are centered around being clean and sober. Then there are motorcycle clubs that are just solely focused on riding. So yeah, it's very, very common. We have a very diverse community.
So what would Jesus drive?
A Harley, for sure.
Absolutely. You haven't been seen on any Japanese stuff. Ugh, yeah, they're not good. David Devereaux, spokesperson for the National Council of Clubs, with us, along with Wade Eldridge, lawyer for National Council of Clubs. We're bringing them on the Jeff and Bill show this morning because there have been some social media posts about motorcycle clubs or gangs coming to Aurora to attack the Venezuelan gang members, and it's going to be a rumble, and that's not true. It's a social media post that got out of hand, that someone was actually making a joke, and I'm going to have Dave address that here in a second. So when you see the motorcyclists in and around Aurora, these are friends of the community. You don't have to be worried about them. If you do, wave, say hi to them, and make sure you give them the space on the road that they need. Because here in Colorado, we're dealing with a brand new law, how they can slide up between you in the lanes, and they can get ahead of you when you're driving out traffic and also at stop signs and stoplights. So be careful, share the road, watch out for our friends that are on the two-wheelers when you're in your four-wheeler. Now, David, I want you to talk about...
Can I interject something here?
Please, yes.
The law, because if there are any bikers listening to this, the law is that you can only come in between the cars when they're stopped. I've seen some people coming in between the cars while they're still moving. That's not the law. So, hey, my biker brothers, only when they're stopped.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that one. That is exactly right. So when it is stopped, that's when you can slide through it in between the cars. Now, David, this original post that caused some of the say kerfuffle was actually a joke. Tell us the story about the person you've talked to that's responsible for the original post and how it kind of got out of hand.
Well, I haven't talked to the person who originally is responsible for the post, but she has posted another post that says, "Hey, this was intended to be a joke. I did not intend for this to be a viral news story that even mainstream media has picked up." But I think that is one of the risks of social media. There's no gatekeeper for social media, right? There's no one that validates this like they do in the mainstream media. And so I don't know. It just, like other things that go viral, it starts from this one seed and it rapidly grew. I mean, very rapidly grew to the point where the mainstream media started to pick it up. So unfortunately, a lot of people have taken this seriously. I have a 16-year-old boy walking in front of my house who knows that I ride a motorcycle, and ask me whether I realized that motorcycle clubs were headed to Aurora, Colorado to confront Venezuelan gangs. This is a 16-year-old kid from my neighborhood. I have another brother in my motorcycle club who traveled out here to this convention with me. And his 80-year-old father asked him whether he was coming to participate in handling these Venezuelan immigrants, right? I mean, it's just unfortunately, people often believe what they hear. And this is an example of that.
There's that old saying that a lie can get around the world twice before the truth even gets its pants on. How does somebody join a bikers club? Where do you go? Is there a directory?
Well, I don't know of any such directory. So I would suggest if you're interested in doing that, first ride a motorcycle. It's just all about who you meet and who you don't. Walk up and approach someone in a respectful manner, or start going to local biker events, go to bike nights, participate in the biker scene in your community, and doors will open for you if you participate in the community. There is no handbook on how to join a motorcycle club. Every motorcycle club is different. Many motorcycle clubs do not recruit, some do. There's just no one answer for that question. So that's advice I'd have for someone who's interested in being a part of the motorcycle club community is first become familiar with the motorcycle scene in your community. Start going to bike nights, start going to charity events, start going to public rides. And, you'll eventually meet people who are part of the motorcycle club world.
Oh, nice. Now, David Devereaux, Wade Eldridge, both here with us. National Council of Clubs are meeting this weekend in Aurora. All the bikes you're going to see around isn't anything to be afraid of. They're wonderful people. Give them the space on the road. Now, gentlemen, talking about getting involved in the motorcycle community, I've got a question for both of you. David first, then Wade.
Let me just.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Let me just add something. A lot of the clubs have websites too, so that's not a bad. That's a good place to check out as well.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so now what I want to know, David first, then Wade. David, what was your first ride, and what are you riding now? And then we'll talk to Wade and ask him the same question. What was your first one?
First motorcycle was one that I got from my father. It was a 1980 Harley Davidson Sturgis model shovelhead.
Oh, wow.
That was my first motorcycle.
And what are you on now?
A 2005 Road King.
Ooh.
And also a 1997 Ultra Classic. So I ride older motorcycles.
Oh, that's nice. Now, Wade, you're first, and what are you riding now?
Well, my first was a 90cc Bridgestone when I was a junior in high school.
Wow.
On which, fortunately, I took it's my first motorcycle. I really didn't know how to ride. I took a turn to the right. I should have leaned to the right, but instead I leaned to the left and woke up about 10 days later in the ER.
Oh,
and I wasn't wearing a helmet, and so I had a fractured skull. My heart stopped. The state of Pennsylvania in 1966. You got no heartbeat, you're dead. So I can say I was killed on my first motorcycle.
Wow.
But then when I was in law school, I got a BMW, which I drove to Guatemala and back. Now I'm privileged, thank you, Lord. I've got several motorcycles to choose from. I have a Triumph Rocket 3, which I converted into a trike, a couple BMWs, some Harleys, assortment of Japanese motorcycles. It's just kind of depends on the day.
Right. Oh, man, that is great. And here's Jeff and I just still putting the playing cards into the spokes of our bikes and pretending that we're riding motorcycles. Hey, David, Wade, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you joining Jeff and Bill. National Council of Clubs going to be meeting here in Aurora this weekend. When you see them on the road, give them the space. Gentlemen, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and enjoy Colorado. We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right.
We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Absolutely fantastic show today, debating whether or not Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are hiding from the media because they don't want to expose their radical leftist views, or they just feel like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance aren't doing that good of a job, so we'll let them have all the media and deal with it, and we'll just get elected like Joe Biden did in 2020. That was a good debate. Then we got into whether or not Mike Coffman should be on the stage with Donald Trump coming up. All of that was on our podcast, 710knus.com. I'm going to be filling in for Peter Boyles tomorrow, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you can join me there as we cover the ballot initiatives and a lot more. So be tuning in. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Enjoy your weekend.